What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. A regal-looking young man no older than 19 years of age with long spiking blonde hair wearing a burnt orange sleeveless overcoat with black flame edging along the bottom of the coat. Under the coat he wore black samurai armor with light-toned orange edging over a pair of gray pants and shirt. Staring at the rock garden, losing himself to peaceful moment, he fingered a green stone necklace he wore around his neck. 6 years. It had been 6 eventful years ever since his banishment from Konoha after nearly killing himself. To bring back the last Uchiha, Sasuke, instead of a welcome back, or even a thank you. His reward was scorn and banishment. The reason? Releasing the nine-tailed fox's chakra and the attempted killing of the Uchiha, even if said Uchiha had transformed into monster with 2 giant hands like wings from that sealed the snake Teme and willingly using the damn thing to kill him. Now this didn't hurt him, he was glad to be away from the spiteful village. But what hurt him was that everyone he thought he could trust, everyone he thought was his friends and family, betrayed him. Tsunade, the old hag, had scowled him for the wounds Sasuke had received. I had to hold back despite being badly injured himself. With a hole the size of a fist in his chest, she didn't even finish healing him, stating the fox can repair the rest of the damages, and told him off on his stupidly. His sensei, Hitaki Kakashi, the worthless Teme, who told him those who abandon their teammate are trash, had left him to rot. His teammates, Sakura the pink-haired slut, had shunned him. Sasuke that traitor rammed his lighting-infused hand into his chest. Spoke volumes, as did the entire Rookie 9 team guy, and most of all, Iruka, his big brother, and Jiraiya, useless peeping Tom, his so-called godfather. The only one who never betrayed him was Hinata. In fact, she was at his side every moment up to the day he left, confessed her love to him only before his banishment that hurt him deeply. It still hurts him to know he could now never return her feelings. Shortly after he left, Tsunade had told the whole village of Naruto's dark secret, in the hope of making his friends see him as a hero. Had backfired. Now they see him as a threat that needed to be locked away or killed. All that drinking must rotted her brain. So he was sure Hinata would hate him as well, but he wasn't sure after hearing what happened after he left to the western lands. It seemed he had a lot pull with others and he didn't even know it, or it was kept from him. When news of his banishment reached waves, Spring, Suna, every country and ninja villages he went to on missions, instead of damning him they closed ranks behind him. Some even tried to find him and offered him a place within their nations or village. Unable to find him, the counties and hidden villages broke all agreements with Konoha and the Land of Fire. Suna and Waves threatened to return any Konoha ninja found trespassing on their lands in a box, and maybe with air holes, or in Suna's case a matchbox, with Gar's way in handling unwanted guests. Fire Daimyo was less than pleased with Konoha when word of Naruto's banishment reached him, followed by every treaty Fire had gained thanks to Naruto been torn up. Fire Daimyo knew who his mother and father were and owned them for saving his life. Once he believed Konoha would take care of Naruto, fox or no fox. It seems he had been far too trusting in Konoha and having failed to check up on Naruto. Fire Daimyo may have been a bit foppish at times. He was man of honor and felt the need to atone for his inaction and loss of face with the other Daimyos. After heading straight to the disgrace of Ninja Village with his bodyguards and army of samurai, he ordered Konoha not to send hunter nins after him while he tore them a new asshole and slashed their funding to make up for the lost trade. Naruto soon realized how blind he was when he was out of the village for good. It was like the wool had been removed from his eyes. He could see clearly. Now, compared to popular belief, he wasn't the loud idiot he made himself out to be. It was a mask he wore, as a self-defense to use against the villagers who hurt him over the years. It even fooled him at times. Now he had no need for it, and so he was free. He also found out his heritage before his banishment. How? A small scroll that somehow mysteriously appeared in his apartment. He could remember how shocked he was to find out he was the son of the 4th Hokage, Konoha's Yellow Flash, Namikaze Minato, and red-hot-blooded habanero, Uzumaki Kushina, and second host of the Nine Tails, who made the very seal that held the nine-tailed fox with their own blood and chakra. Besides, yellow and red make orange, and he did like orange a lot, must run in the blood. After learning this had strengthened his hatred towards Konoha. How much more had it kept from him? The old man Hokage's letter on how he begged for his forgiveness in failing. Much of his regrets on his mistake of informing the village about him and his father's last request to be seen as a hero, and how the village elders forayed him from giving him his heritage. They even wanted to make him a mindless weapon. It wouldn't have happened if that masked ninja hadn't kidnapped his mother, who held the fox and controlled Kyuubi to attack the village. The scroll also contained the family fortune and the scrolls of his father and mother, including the scrolls of the Uzumaki sealing arts, which now he is a master of. But he wasn't alone on his travels. The very demon inside of him was his closest friend. At first Kyuubi was still the rage-filled demon, which tired to get him to release the seal so it can wipe out Konoha. After butting heads with Kyuubi, reminding the fox that the Uzumaki never used him as a weapon like the other tailed beasts, Kyuubi learned to help him. Shockingly, Kyuubi was female instead of mass of chakra or male because of Kyuubi's voice in her fox form. Kyuubi did started out a less mass of chakra, but her last two hosts were female and their chakra happened to intermix with the fox's own when Kyuubi was held inside both. She became the first of many allies. Kyuubi acted like an older sister to him. After being freed, she vowed to be at his side instead of going after the masked man who was it as Uchiha Madara, teaching him many useful things not just in the ways of ninja she learned when sealed inside the Sennin of Six Paths, and she still can't do half the stuff the god of modern ninja did before he became the host for the nine-tailed beasts. But in the 3 lifetimes she had been sealed also learned many other aspects of life which she imparted to him along with Erla Raven and Mara, so this came useful when he gained an ambition which would make him the most powerful ruler in the land. To the west of the known elemental countries, things were done much different in many aspects. Firstly, since the hidden wars hadn't gotten near these lands, the population was higher because there were no great wars to diminish human life. In fact, there were several near humans. Population had moved to the west to get away from the wars or been driven from the homes and hated for being different. The most numbest group were the Yoki humans with certain anatomical attributes that are considered normal, such as animal ears and tails, even wings that allowed some to fly in the air. The West's outlooks on demons was very open compared to the East's. Kyuubi was somewhat ashamed to admit that she wasn't the most powerful beast or demon that walked the lands. There were demons that lived here in the West would make even Kyuubi think twice in picking a fight with. Thankfully most of them were passive and didn't attack without a good reason to. Still, Kyuubi was feared and respected by the demons in the West. Also, the first hidden war saw the end of the samurai era, but only in the East. To the west, both ninja and samurai worked together to create a strong, military force for which all the Western countries used. Thought there were people who easily turned the tide of battle alone, much like his father had done in the Third Hidden War. But lastly, the biggest difference was in fact a flaw of the western part of the continent. Unlike the East, after the last 3 hidden wars there was strong central governments that held power, such as the daimyos. The West was nearly a lawless and chaotic place. Local warlords and bandit kings rose up and took power away from the daimyos, leaving them powerless, and used their newfound power to terrorize and control the countries. Some warlords even sought to expand their power and declared war on other warlords, fighting over land and resources. While the wars were less frequent, it didn't mean they were less fierce. Many battles resulted in both sides losing many soldiers, samurai, and ninja that resulted in the death of one or both warlords participating in the fight. However, a sad fact, there would always be another warlord who would rise up and take the place of his predecessor and start it all over again. When he arrived in the West, he ran afoul with the local bandits, getting an arrow though the chest would take time to heal. Thought he would be dead before Kyuubi could mend his wound, but a group of patrolling Roth clan ninjas saved his life, and when they were healing him they saw spiral seal on his stomach and knew what he was. The Roth leaders studied his seal and asked what was his clan name. Came as a shock, it was Uzumaki. In the past both clans had came across each other in the past and then asked what was host. He got ready to fight his out. Kyuubi was getting ready to aid her host but was dumbfounded when Roth didn't bat an eyelash at that. They were accepting in the fact of him being Jinchuriki to Kyuubi and did not fear him because of it, but the children, the younger ones, wanted become Jinchuriki to get those kitty whiskers. Naruto face faulted at hearing that and shot that idea down, saying he was born with them. This made many children pout. After retelling his story, the clan leader welcomed him as a part of the clan, not for power he held but to show what felt it like to have a family. While surprising to many of the Roth clan and the joy to pair twins Naruto had befriended when he was healing. He was brought up to speed on what's going on in the West, and he didn't like what he heard. There were a few ninja and samurai clans who were neutral and powerful enough to warn away the more powerful warlords away from their lands, being to much trouble for little gain but were too small to challenge the warlords' armies. The Hojo clan attempted to fight the warlords in open battle but were wiped out. The Roth clan fell into this grouping and were the largest clan in the local area, and protected the villages in return for supplies. In the past they were trying to form a hidden village like in the East. See how peaceful the East was at times with other ninja clans. Even few samurai clans were interested. But after the Hojo's fall made many other neutral clans became hesitant in joining forces or shared their fate. The Roth clan and many others now were being harassed by minor warlords day and night to become their allies or attacked by damned bandits who tried to enslave to outright massacring the whole clan and take all the loot and women from the village they protected. More than once the Roth clan leader Erla, who easily ranked Senin herself, had to rescue one of her clan from bandits who were having their way with the usably a female Roth clan ninja, and was nicknamed Bandit Slayer. When he arrived it was getting worse. There had been talks of an all-out war between the major warlords that would make last 3 hidden wars in the East look like 3-year-old schoolyard fight. Naruto was at a loss. He wanted to help. Kyuubi remarked that she would be a lot more useful other than a power source, but without a host she would lose herself to her rage. Naruto gave that a thought and bounced the idea to Erla. She did know a way using a blood clone and soul transferred, but she wasn't sure that it would work. She only studied those jutsus, so that idea was shelved. Besides, Naruto would die if Kyuubi was removed. Oddly, both clans seemed to have one half of Senin of 6 Paths Fuinjutsu, and both Fuinjutsu styles were based of their part of Senin of 6 Paths Fuinjutsu. Uzumaki used the swirl as the primary for their seals. Roth used characters as their primary for their seals. Both used the wed-like array Senin of 6 Paths made. Uzumaki arrays had raw power and need a large area to be placed. Roth arrays lacked power but had control and needed less space. When he and Roth leader tested both east and west types of exploding notes while mocking each other on who had the better exploding notes, east or west, what happened? Both tags arrays seemingly combined before exploding with the force of 100 tags. They both nearly gotten killed from the shockwave and bit burnt, but were in awe at combined power. After going through every scroll on Fuinjutsu, find out how the impossible became possible and found the very jutsu to free the fox. It seemed the great Senin of 6 Paths was working on a way to bind the 9 chakra beasts into living shells for them to live out their lifespan as living beings of flesh and blood, but the great sage was nearing the end of his life before he can use it. Naruto still doesn't think fate rules over life. He had a feeling that old Target Eyes had planned this from beyond the grave to make this happen. A lot of work went into the releasing of Kyuubi from the seal with all of Kyuubi's power intact and keeping himself alive thanks to his mother's blood in his veins. His Uzumaki blood and blood of a foxyoki was used to birth a shell to house Kyuubi chakra. After being freed, Kyuubi was no longer the semi-mindless beast and felt saddened for her hand in his parents' death and apologies to him. She became the first of many allies. Kyuubi acted like an older sister to him. After being freed, she vowed to be at his side instead of going after the masked man who was it as Uchiha Madara, teaching him many useful things not just in the ways of ninja she learned when sealed inside the Senin of 6 Paths, and she still can't do half the stuff the god of modern ninja did before he became the host for the 9-tailed beasts. But in the 3 lifetimes she had been sealed also learned many other aspects of life which she imparted to him along with Erla, Raven and Mara, so this came useful when he gained an ambition which would make him the most powerful ruler in the land. After learning about the West's problems, Naruto saw the lawlessness of the land, and together with Kyuubi, Uzumaki, Naruto vowed to unite the land, to bring peace to the Roth clan and the war-torn land in the West. He became first known throughout the land when he took on and killed one of the most dangerous warlords, the proclaimed and much feared Demon King, Oda Nobunaga. Nobunaga had been for pushing the Roth clan to allied with him for years after he became a major power in the region. Only reason he hadn't overran their territory yet, seeing as he respected Erla and clan skills. He hadn't forced this in the past, knowing he would lose a lot troops in wearing her and Roth clan down. But with talk of all-out war between the major warlords in was only a matter of time before Nobunaga would take care of any problems at his rear before going after the major warlords. Naruto had the battle scars to prove that Nobunaga rightfully earned the title of Demon King. Nobunaga fought like a demon. He even wielded the fable sword, the blade of the Demon King, and wasn't even being controlled by the blade's aura like many others that held it. Kyuubi even remarked that Nobunaga's chakra was as dark and evil as Uchiha Madara's. But thankfully Naruto had trained hard for this and managed to gain a weapon that can match the blade of the Demon King, the legendary Dragon Sword, but it was still close. Naruto chuckled. Nobunaga's chakra was dark and evil, but he knew this land needed to be united under one leader. In his last breath, Nobunaga, with a smile on his face, proclaimed Naruto as the one to succeed and surpass him in his ambition: unite the land as Shogun of the West. "Well, Nobunaga, you were right about me. Hope you're having a good time with Zabuza in hell," muttered Naruto, knowing those two. He'll bet that they're running place if the demons in hell didn't match up with their standards on what demons should be. "Kit, the daimyos have arrived and are waiting for your arrival," spoke a red-hair woman. "Thanks, Kyuubi, let's not keep them waiting," Naruto said and walked with Kyuubi to the meeting room. Konoha Hokage Tower. Tsunade sighed. The kamis must have cursed Konoha after Naruto's banishment. Sasuke escaped to Oto. Every country where Naruto had missions broke off all trade and treaties they made with Konoha, and any ninjas from Konoha were treated as hostile invades. And because of the stupidity of the elders, Konoha, instead of fighting just Oto, now Iwa and Kumo sided with Oto, and their allies Kuretake and Suna were only allies in name and have abandoned Konoha in their time of need. Tsunade sat in her behind her desk with her fingers interlocked in front of her face, with Shizune beside her. Standing in front of her was the assembled team in which they would prove to be the salvation of Konoha. Kakashi Hitaki, Kurenai Yuhi, Kiba Inuzuka, Shino Aburame, Sakura Haruno, and Hinata Hyuga. Many of the selected group was of the former Rookie 9, and she picked each one for a different reason. Kakashi Hitaki was a skilled Jonin, with over 1,000 jutsu and the legendary Sharingan. He would be a formidable opponent to anyone they met. He was also sensei of the now deceased Team 7, and knew the boy, Naruto Uzumaki, quite well. She secretly hoped that if they did encounter Naruto along the way, even though it was a slim chance, he would be able to convince him to return. Kurenai Yuhi, the Genjutsu mistress, would prove a valuable support by confusing the enemy with her illusions. She was also a last column of support for Hinata, so she was also valued for that reason. Kiba Inuzuka and his partner Akamaru were a deadly double team, and being the rank of Jonin also showed his skills. When she told everyone of Naruto's darkest secret, he was one of the first to turn against the blonde. Now she wished she hadn't had done it, as if they even got Naruto back, he would receive a less than warm welcome. Shino Aburame was also a very skilled Jonin, having been good at reconnaissance made him needed should they run into trouble. Seeing the others hated Naruto, Shino followed the group. Sakura Haruno, the best medic nin ever to be produced. Even in Tsunade's prime she couldn't achieve what her apprentice had done. So it was only natural that she takes this mission. Like Kiba, she despised Naruto, not for being a demon, but as danger that needed to be eliminated. Again, Tsunade wondered if it was a good idea to tell them about Naruto's dark secret. Finally, Hinata Hyuga was put on the team for a very special reason. While she was only a chunin, her diplomatic skills were second to none. So if the shogun was to decide not to aid the village, then Hinata would do her very best to persuade him to reconsider. She was the only one out of the Rookie 9 to miss Naruto, and finding out his secret only strengthened her love for the blonde. Love really is a special thing. The reason you are all here is because you all will be going to the Western Empire and try and persuade the Shogun of the West to aid us in this war. The assembled nin were surprised. They were going west. None of them had any knowledge of the lands, so this was a complete new adventure for them. "Is the upcoming war with Oto, Iwa and Kumo that bad?" asked Hinata. "It is. We will lose this war. That is why you all have been entrusted with this mission, because of your skills. You must do everything you can to make him join the war as our ally, or we will lose this war. The future of Konoha hangs in the balance, so you must not fail." Tsunade spoke with a very rare seriousness, which made all present understand the situation better. They were to try and get the empire into the war, or Konoha would surely fall. The Imperial City. The meeting was to deal with several financial problems in the southern area of the empire, which was considered to be the poorest of areas. Naruto had tried his hardest to bring money to those areas, and it was only now beginning to work, if only a slight difference. Naruto signed. Sometimes it was hard being the shogun, making important decisions which would affect the lives of millions in the empire. But he knew it was all worth it, For if he didn't unite the country, then it still would be divided and war-torn. Ah, what a long day, groaned Naruto, dropping his whole body onto a couch. Running an empire wasn't going to be easy even after 6 years, at least you don't have mountains of paperwork to do, remarked Kyuubi, getting a laugh from Naruto. Good thing or I'll be gray and old by the time I finish one of old man Hokage daily workloads, said Naruto, as a maid placed some tea down for Kyuubi and himself. About Konoha, Kyuubi said it was a touchy subject for both. If she hated Konoha, she despised Orochimaru a lot more. I don't know if the old man was still alive I would have, but he isn't. I despised Orochimaru a lot, but revenge being the only reason for going to war is not good enough, sighed Naruto. A wise leader must put the people welfare before his own desires, said Kyuubi. I know, muttered Naruto. What about Hinata? It wouldn't be too hard for your elite ninja to kidnap her, Kyuubi thought out loud. No, I will not force her away from her home and life. Besides, she must hate me, the demon brat. Besides, you're the one who shouldn't give tips on love. Seeing your own fan club like that imp and his group singing imps that kept half the city awake as they sing his love for you off key, I might add. Kyuubi's face turned as red as her hair when he reminded her of that. But if she still loves you, asked Kyuubi. She was classed as a fox yoki by the ever-moody and dull-toned dragon warlord, and more than one human yoki oni or just plain demon kind tried to woo her, even forced her to be their mate. The wooing attempts like that orge who laid a dead cow at her feet showing her he can provide for her, the singing imps, was still the talk of the city. Those who tried to make her their mate found out that why she was the fear Kyuubi who level mountains with a swish of her 9-tail before Naruto got his hands on them, being a overprotected little brother. He sighed. Still, in some ways Konoha was his old home, even though it really didn't act like one. And there was Hinata. She would surely die if Konoha fell. He admitted that he still held feeling for her, but how did she feel about him? Suddenly he remembered the late Sarutobi's speech about the will of fire. And in many ways he had to thank the old man for being the family he never had. In fact, if he were still alive he would have gone and supported Konoha, because he was one of the few who treated him like a human, like Hinata. He was brought out of his thoughts when he felt a presence near him. Turning, he could see one of his servants waiting at the door. Pardon me, your majesty, but there is a lady waiting to see you in the guest lounge, he spoke. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Who could it be? Did she say who her name was? The servant looked deep in thought as he tried to remember her name. Upon seeing so many guests all the time it was hard to remember all their names. Then it suddenly came to him. Ah yes, now I remember. She said her name was Yukie Fujikaze. Well then I shall not keep her ladyship waiting, said Naruto, feeling this week was going to be good. A week pasted. The size of the wall dwarfed Konoha's own walls and had 10 times the number of Peplizali. As the team from Konoha stood in awe as they appeared in front of the gates to the capital city of the Western Empire in a week after they crossed the border to the west. Kakashi turned to the others. Okay, take off your headbands and take out your false identity cards and papers. We must not tell them we are from Konoha, or they could get the wrong idea. The other nodded, understanding the situation, and did as they were told. Kakashi even took off his face mask, which came to a shock at the others. Finally they would see his face. He turned to them. What? He asked, wearing large fake bread that still hid his face. The others just shook it off, while put a simple headband on to cover his Sharingan eye. After getting ready, they started to walk down to the main gate but saw a lot of military units using the main gate. The civilian travelers were using smaller, more defensible sub-gates that can be quickly closed or blocked off in case of siege. Upon arriving they were stopped by 2 guards on duty. The team's surprise, they were samurai. Only the Land of Iron still used samurai as their main military force in the east and well trained at the stances they took. This easily showed them that in this part of the continent, being a samurai wasn't out of fashion, unlike the east. Halt, please state your business here. The guard who spoke was easily seen as a veteran due to his age. The other looked only to be in his late 20s. Kakashi took the lead. Hello, we are a group of tourists from the east. The Jonin replied, we came to see the empire sites, as they were told to be quite exquisite. At this both samurai laughed. Well, I have to say we get a lot of tourists in the empire, he explained. If I had to recommend a site it would be Ryu Temple, a few miles from the imperial city. If you're lucky, you may get to see a real, live dragon, said the younger samurai. At this the Konoha nin looked shocked. A real dragon? The guards laughed again as they saw the looks on their faces. Yes, real dragons, most of them live in the mountains, but a few do live near the temple because of the natural hot springs. They're harmless if you don't bother them, but it's a good thing you tourists came here. When you did, you get to see the shogun summon the 5 elemental dragons for the empire's founding day celebrations. Quote, "Shogun has some mighty allies under his command," younger samurai remarked. Sakura saw the perfect chance to ask some questions about the shogun. "Speaking of the shogun, what is he like?" she asked, making herself sound like as excited as possible. "I have to say he is by far the best ruler ever to come across the western continent. We are truly blessed by Kami," the guard started. "He loves his people dearly, and tries not to retort to force, only seeing it as a last resort. And he's truly a charismatic individual. In fact, many of the wars he fought was with words, and not swords. When he did fight, he was a force of nature. He became known after he fought and killed one of the most powerful warlords in the West, the Demon King, Oda Nobunaga. If he didn't, Nobunaga would have been ruling the empire," the samurai said. "I heard of Nobunaga, he was merciless as he was powerful," spoke Shino. "I'm guessing the shogun was more powerful. Either way, he won them all. I used to follow the banner of Takeda Shingen. He is one of the more honorable warlords. Everyone, though there was going to be a battle, but the shogun came under a white flag and talked with him, and Lord Shingen swore his loyalty to the young man. But he is not the type of person you want to cross if you anger him. Many less than honorable warlords found out, which would be a feat all on its own, because if you do, then his vengeance is swift. Luckily that rarely happens. Also, he is only 19 years old, and he manages to rule the empire with great wisdom. Mind you, I think his companion has something to do with that." Kiba raised a brow. "Companion?" asked Kiba. Hinata was hoping the companion had blonde hair, blue eyes, and whisker mark on his cheeks. "A red-haired beauty. She was always at his side, be it in battle or not, and I know for a fact isn't human but a demon. I saw her transform from a beast to human at will," said younger samurai. Hinata's hope fell. Hearing this, Konoha nin stiffen up. Did the shogun command demons, or is the shogun was a puppet of a demon? The older samurai saw the tourists' uneasiness. The West had a lot contact with demons and other kinds of spirits. Not all of them were evil, and having a lot of priests and priestess to purify the ones that did. Even the warlord didn't bother demons along with the well-known ones, but those that did met their end from a curse or claws of one. It's better to have a powerful demon neutral to you than having one as an enemy. No one knows if she be a demon or oni, but the look in her eye tell anyone that she has been around for a long time. The shogun seems to trust her a lot, being one of his personal advisors. And help the shogun with problems. So far she hasn't steered him wrong yet. Will we be able to see him? Hinata spoke, trying not to stutter. Well, he does hold public speeches once a month, talking about the current events that are usually important. In fact, the speech that was on some days ago was the speech of the anniversary of the empire's unification. I have to stress he is a very good public speaker, able to capture the crowd's attention with just his words. But if want to try and see him on a one-to-one, I think that won't happen. Kakashi frowned slightly. It would be difficult to get an audience with the shogun. Do you know where we can get a map of the city, so we know where we are going? At this, the younger guard reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded map, which he gave to Kakashi. He thanked him for the item. You need it. The city is a maze after being laid siege and rebuilt after many years by one invading warlord after another. The shogun's first acts was to rebuild city bottom up, tearing down the older buildings and restoring the city's landmarks, making it safer. The people welfare came first before the palace was built. For a good 2 years, shogun lived inside a massive tent in the middle of where the foundation for the palace would be laid. He won the people over by making sure every family got a roof over their heads. In gratitude, the people began working on the palace, making it bigger than it was supposed to be. But there's still a lot of the city still has closed off sections where rebuilding hasn't been started yet, so many criminals hide out in the ruins. So if you see warning signs, turn the other way fast if you value your life. This made some of the group nerviest. Now, before I can let you in, can we see some ID? Asked the elder samurai. The team pulled out their fake ID cards and showed them to the guards. A column of troops marched out from the main gate alongside their gate. Security's tight, going to have a war or something, Kiba commented, before being silenced by a glare from Kurenai. The old man sighed. Yes, it has to be, he said, gathering their attention. With that war that's going on in the east, that it could spill into the west. The fear of that happening shogun recalled the 4 warlords from their home provinces in case it does, and placing all combat-ready clans and troops in the eastern region high alert. The shogun really doesn't want to get involved in this war for some reason. Maybe it's because he wants to protect his people from a war that is not ours to fight. Suddenly for the team, it felt that getting the shogun to join forces with Konoha had just gotten harder. "My brother got shipped out last week to the forts because of this," said the younger samurai. "Easterns now start a war after we just finished all because some ninja village cast out one of their own who netted them so many treaties." Everyone besides Hinata flinched at hearing that. A really bad move if you ask me. I heard all those treaties were torn up after hearing what happened, and that village is going to get overrun easily after casting out that one ninja. They need someone like the shogun to pull them out of the fire, remarked the older samurai. "Yes, very foolish," said Hinata as the others became worried on the whole outcome of this mission. A shadow moved with a life of its own away from the group. It had followed them for over a week, having after passing the border. Finally, the gates opened, and they were let into the city. But with all this happening, not one of them noticed that not far from their current position from the shadow emerged a robbed, hooded figure. The shogun must be informed about this, thought the figure, and submerged back into the shadows. Naruto smiled at Yukie as he poured her another drink of red wine. After the mission to Spring Country, the two had remained good friends. Yukie went as far as to cut all ties with Konoha when Naruto got banished, causing a huge blow for the village. When Naruto became shogun, Yukie was the first to find out his identity, and visited him regularly when she had some free time of being the daimyo. She was one of the few people outside the empire he could fully trust with his feelings, and had his complete trust. "You know, I still cannot believe you want to star in Jiraiya's Icha Icha movie." At this, Yukie laughed. "Well, I thought it would be an interesting experience." Naruto smiled as he took a sip of his wine. Icha Icha was very popular in the West as it been in the East. "You don't know how much of an experience you are going to get, Yukie-chan." She blushed at the comment made by the blonde. Naruto's smile only got bigger as he saw the look on her face. A knock on the door unexpectedly interrupted the two. Naruto turned his head to the door. "Enter," he shouted, and with silent creak the door opened, revealing a dark-robed figure with a hood. Naruto smiled but noted figure wasn't here to see him and say hi but to report as a ninja of the empire. His face suddenly turned serious. "Naruto, there a problem?" spoke a ninja. "What is it?" asked Naruto. "A group of ninja have entered the city in secret. They appeared to be from Konoha. I trailed them from border to this very city," spoke the robed person, now identified as a woman. "They removed their headbands and used forged documents and IDs to enter. From what I overheard, they wanted to seek the shogun help for their war." Naruto's eyes widened then narrowed. "Bring them here. I want to ask them personally what the hell they're doing here in my lands. And have Kyuubi greet them in her fox form. I believed she is in her office." "I'll get her," spoke the robed female as she left. Yukie looked worried. "It looks like I will be facing my past," said Naruto as he puts on his coat. The team from Konoha tried very hard to navigate through the busy streets. Thanks to the map the guard gave them, they would be able to find a hotel in which they could stay for the night, as try to seek an audience with the emperor. As they walked past, they saw that much of this place wasn't much different from Konoha, as they saw similar shops and people wearing similar clothing. What they did find different though was from time to time, they would pass a two-squad patrol that consisted of armored samurai and ninjas. The East's version of Anbu by his guests, noting their outfits and masks as he watched them hopping from the rooftops or perch on a pole. Kakashi had to admit, the only reason why the samurai had died in the East was because of a quick change, and that change can easily have an opposite if another shinobi war took place. Sakura noted there was a few people that made her do a double take like they had tails or animal ears. A few people that they passed Sakura swore they were wings on their back but thought it as Western tastes and style. Akamaru didn't like the crowded streets, which could be easily told by his whining. Must because of the small room available and by the stairs because of his size. Kiba did his best to comfort his canine companion. "So Kakashi, do you know where we are going?" Kurenai asked. Kakashi turned his head to face her. "Yes, all we need to do is to turn right at the next corner, then we will be at our destination," the Jonin replied. Kurenai suddenly felt fast movement, and quickly sup around. Kakashi stopped, gathering the other members' attention. Kurenai saw samurai making their way though the crowd's looking for someone. A samurai locked eyes with hers before waving the other samurai over. "What's wrong, senpai?" Sakura asked. She got her answer when she saw a group of samurai run towards them as the rooftops became crowed by ninjas cutting off escape routes. "Stop right there," one of them yelled. The Konoha team got into a defensive stance. All around them the civilians tried to get away from the scene, making a large circle around them. The samurai encircled the group, katanas drawn. Kiba growled and was about to charge, but a hand from Sakura stopped him. "No, if you attack, it could make matters worse," she pleaded. Kiba understood and decided not to attack. They were here for an alliance, not to make war. A roar deafens everyone as something caused people up ahead to move out of the way, making a wide path. Clear the way," shouted a man as a large paw followed by another moved past him. The Konoha group blood froze as they saw a large red-furred fox prowl between the buildings, mind full of the humans underfoot. When the fox stopped waiting for a mother pulled her child out of the way, then move along. The terror of Konoha neared the Konoha nins and stopped before them after the samurai surround them. The fox's 9 tails waved back and forth as the fox's eyes glared at the ninjas, making them sweat a little. In turn made the fox to grin with its fangs. A hooded person, most likely a trained ninja from the way the person leaps down from Kyuubi's head with ease. "Kyuubi," Sakura muttered. "How is this possible?" The fox burst into flames, and as quickly as it appeared, it died down, revealing a tall, beautiful red-haired woman wearing a blood-red battle dress that hugged her every curve. Her legs were clad in long black leg stockings with the heels and toes bared as the woman had sharp claws on her toes and fingers. Her cheeks had 6 whisker marks like Naruto's but longer and darker. What really made her stand out, besides being a giant fox, was her blood-red silted eyes. Kyuubi rolled her shoulders, feeling a bit stiff having used her tailed beast form after having not used in a while. "Why is Kyuubi-sama here?" whispered someone from the crowd. It seemed Kyuubi was a very important person in the West. They must be dangerous for the shogun to send her to face them. Some of the people with children decided to leave to spare their kids from seeing a lot of blood being spilled. Kyuubi smirked in her mind, having made a reputation in the West other than being the feared 9-tailed demon fox like in the East, as the same robed ninja walked behind her. "Is them?" spoke the robed ninja. "So how should this be handled?" "I'll take care of them, we have history after all," spoke Kyuubi. "It seems I am cursed to be forever running into Konoha ninja," muttered Kyuubi, rolling her left shoulder to get a kink out as she advanced them like they were prey. Walking up to them, her red silted eye looked at each of them but blinked at Hinata before going back to the rest. She sneered. Just like Konoha to just walk into places uninvited, as if they owned the place. Though her voice was soft, the tone was harsh. Kiba was the first to recover, and retorted. "Drop the henge no jutsu, Kyuubi, or should I say Naruto, you're not fooling us." The crowd started to murmur. "What is he talking about?" Making Kyuubi growled in annoyance. This boy was a fool. "How dare you speak to Lady Kyuubi in such a matter?" shouted the now female robe ninja. "Why the hell are you defending that monster?" shouted Kiba's, causing the samurai to get annoyed. "Watch what you say, boy," stated the lead samurai. The robe ninja would have stabbed a kunai into Kiba's forehead for his disrespect, but Kyuubi raised her hand. "I'll deal with this, I'm more than willing to correct him on his mistake." The robe ninja nodded and backs down, as do the samurai. "I'm so going to enjoy this," said Kyuubi, moving towards the Konoha team. Kiba gulped as Naruto started to crack his knuckles with an evil grin. The demon fox had been well known to have before dealing out painful and bloody death. Kyuubi grabbed the front of Kiba's coat and lifted the young man easy and reared back her right arm and punched him hard in the face. "Did that feel like henge to you, Mud? Your dog seems to know better." Akamaru whimpered and backed away. "I am Kyuubi," she growled as she throws Kiba down to the ground. Kiba tried to get back up, but Kyuubi put her stocking-covered foot on his chest, keeping him pinned to ground with little effort on Kiba's part. Felt like his chest was nearly being crushed. Locking her eyes to his as she looked down a bit with both hands on her hip. "Let me tell you this once, inbred fool. Naruto and I are completely separate entities. Don't get the jailer mixed up with the prisoner," she said, looking at Kiba like he was a bug to be crushed under her foot. On her part he was a bug, on Kiba's part he was in shock. It wasn't a henge. Wasn't Naruto the Kyuubi? The demon signed in what seemed to be boredom. "I'm taking you all to see the shogun and he is not pleased," said Kyubi, causing everyone to have a bad feeling in their guts. Turning to the robed ninja at her side, "Could you open us a portal to the palace?" she asked. The ninja complied by going through 8 hand seals and using 2 fingers slashed at the air, summoning a large shadow rift for them to travel through. "Now would you like to move under your own power, or shall we? Well, I'll leave the rest to your imagination." Kakashi nodded to his team. They would go quietly. They were, after all, uninvited guests in another land, and she was Kyubi. Without any force they walked through the portal, the Kyubi with ninja and samurai in tow. They could only stare in awe at the sight they gazed upon after exiting the rift. The architecture of the palace was nothing they ever saw before. It truly was fit for the shogun. The building easily overshadowed nearly every other in the whole city. It was that large. "Take a long break, you idiot," said Kyubi as she turned. "And a bath, you smell a bit ripe," Kyubi said as she rubbed her nose. "Your normal room is ready." The robed ninja removed her hood to show a very beautiful young woman with short purple hair and light ash color skin with deep purple eyes and a black and red tattoo on her forehead. Scowls at the foxwoman. "You would do after trailing that lot for over a week, and tell the shogun my mother and sister will arrive within the week and the Roth clan misses both you and your former host," spoke the woman before she Shunshin no jutsu using shadows that coil around her before sinking to nothingness. The Konoha team was a bit shocked that they were followed and unable to detect her or the young woman was seemingly friends with Kyubi. "Let get going. I would hate to anger the shogun any more than he is now," said Kyubi before moving the group along. Everyone noted that there are a lot of branders, all of them one of 5 types. 1 is dark red with a styled fox spiral in black. 2 is brighter shape of red with hanabishi. 3 vertical flowers, characters for tiger and furinkazan in gold. 3 is white with 2 flying swallows in bamboo with the characters of Bishamontan and dragon all black. 4 is blue with a circle around 3 hollyhock leaves in white and the character for turtle. 5 white, 2 cranes bowing their heads together over a centipede and the characters for rebirth and fire all printed in red. "Must be shoguns and the 4 warlords' banners," Sakura thought out loud. Kyubi turned to the ninjas. "I don't know what your purpose is for coming here, but I can take a wild guess and say you're trying to kill the shogun based on your less than open entry into this city, but I highly doubted it just by judging your team." She said it like it was a threat and an insult. "But I should warn you know that His Majesty is not happy with your little infiltration of his lands," she spoke with a serious tone. The large gates in front of them opened, allowing them entry into the palace. Kyubi?" The demon turned his head to see the Hyuga. To Kyubi was plenty surprised that Hinata's eyes held little fear, and could only chuckle in response. "Could I ask why someone such as yourself would serve the shogun? And is Naruto with him?" "I have my reasons, dear Hinata. As for Naruto, he is alive, but to where he is right now, which you will see soon enough." The ninja made their own conclusion. Whoever was the shogun was powerful enough to gain a demon like Kyubi as his ally, and most likely Naruto was really close to the shogun. They also knew that if they ever did go to war with the empire, to capture Kyubi they would easily lose. The interior had a mix of old and new but wasn't overly decorated but simple. No doubt years of war made practicality the rule of the wise, something many hidden villages have forgotten. Finally they came to a pair of decorated doors, a guard on each side. Kyubi nodded to the guards, who saluted in response. "His Majesty is waiting inside, Kyubi-sama." Kyubi nodded, and turned to the Konoha team, both hands behind her back. "I would advise you to watch your mouths and any attack will be dealt with." She raised her right hand showing her partly curled fingers topped with deadly-looking claws. Deadly force. The threat was more directed at Kiba and Sakura more than anyone else, much to their confusion. The doors were opened, and they slowly walked through. What they laid eyes upon was a grand hall. At the very end of the hall stands the ruler of an empire. A man with his back turned to them. Everyone noted the long mane of spiky blonde hair, dressed much like samurai, and the symbol on his coat matched the fox banner. He both hands clasped together as he looked at the city through the large window that dominated the end of the grand hall. "Even now Konoha seems to scorn my existence." The figure spoke, his voice filled with venom as the man turned to face them. Hinata's eyes lit up like the sun. Maybe her prayers would come true and he would save her from her fate. "It can't be," Sakura muttered to herself, deep in distress on who the shogun was. Kakashi finally managed to regain his voice. but still only able to say a single word. Naruto. Surprise Kakashi, I've been known to make the impossible possible, said Naruto with a grin before releasing demoic level of Ki. Now why the hell you trash doing in my empire? Kyuubi showed him how to produce that kind of ki. Gulping, Kakashi stepped forward. We have come on the behalf of Konoha for the empire's aid in a war. I'm well aware of Konoha plight, but why should I even care, stated Naruto. The entire group was stalked. But Konoha was you, started Sakura, but Naruto's cold gaze locked on to her, making a cold shiver run down her spine. Konoha is not my home. I was never welcomed there after both of my parents gave up their lives to seal Kyuubi inside me. I sacrifice and bleed for an ungrateful village. I nearly died 3 times in doing my duty, but did I even got a thank you? No, I was still shunned. Only handful people were there for me, but even they had turned their backs to me save one person stand by me. You know I can and willingly invade Konoha and it leveled to dust just for revenge, said Naruto. But I'm not going to be like Orochimaru. Thought I have many good reasons. I'm a better human being than him. The entire group felt a cold pit of fear in their stomach. This was not the same Naruto from 6 years ago. The guards and even Kyuubi winced at the tone. Naruto had a lifetime of pent-up anger, and she was the embodiment of rage. Was saying something about how angry Naruto was. She sighed, seeing the Hyuga girl in tears. Kyuubi knew he had to be hard as Shogun and giving him a Naruto tone it down look. Naruto sighs at this, thinking on how to handle this. Kurenai stepped up, seeing Kakashi had given up everything Naruto had said was truth. Kurenai saw Hinata was too broken to be of help. She had to salvage the mission for the village's sake. I'm sure Konoha has something to offer that might interest your empire, spoke Kurenai, sweating a little as the former village pariah now turned powerful ruler of an empire. In under 6 years and locked those cold eyes onto her. Think about what her father wanted her to become, a woman and a mother. She hadn't become a mother yet if the shogun had her killed before that happens. I highly doubted that Yuhi, Naruto tone made Kurenai flinched. Western ninja are battle-hardened after years of war and develop jutsus and bloodlines that surpass anything from Konoha. And I trust a D-rank jutsu from them to AS-rank jutsu from Konoha. Naruto turned his back to them. Here's what I think, he thought out loud before he looks at them. I see a village full of trash whose blind arrogance has now dug its own grave, begging for someone to save it, said Naruto. His eyes softened when he looked into her eyes, but as Shogun he wasn't able to be soft right now. I'm sorry Hinata, but I'll make it up to you later, Naruto thought. Naruto turned his back to them again. The Empire of the West will not aid Konoha. I will not waste valuable resources and manpower in a war that doesn't involve my empire, so tell that dunk old bitch that the Empire's answer to Konoha's begging is no. The Konoha team were stunned. Hinata was in tears, thinking that Naruto hated her too. Sakura tired to speak, but nothing came out. I will have you killed if you try entering my land like spies again. For your trespassing you spend the night in the dungeons and escorted the day after out of my lands. Guards, take them away, ordered Naruto. As the guards drag his former friends and possible lover to the nice dark and damp dungeons, No saw the tears in Naruto's eyes. Having retired to his study, Naruto sighed. He really hated being a hard-ass teme. It came with the job of shogun and hated himself more for doing that to Hinata. Turning to the door, knowing only the servants knocked, he wasn't too surprised when the door opened without a knock. Naruto, spoke the young woman dressed in a dark blue robe with a white wrap around her waist. Behind her was Kyuubi. Oh hi Raven, you look great. How's sis and mom been doing? Said Naruto when he had been healing. Got to know centric members the Roth clan, like the clan leader Roth Erla and her twin daughters Raven and Maria. They didn't care if he was a host for a feared-tailed beast and sort of treated him like a part of their family. The Roth clan wanted peace and started to form a hidden village like the ones in the east to be a counter to the warlords and keep them in check, but after the Hojo's fall at the hands of the Demon King, the clans that were willing to join forces pulled out, not wanting to incur his or the other warlords' wrath down on their heads. When Naruto began his campaign to bring about end to the Warring States era, the Roth clan were the first to follow Naruto at the beginning. Erla had the feeling Naruto would not only change the West but the world. She was proven right when he fought Nobunaga, who had the same drive to unite the land under one rule, but his heavy-handed tactics like killing soldiers who surrender without mercy, he would have prolonged the bloodshed and Roth would have to fight him and would have lost. Naruto was shaken out of his thoughts as he noted the look on the woman's face, and only one thought ran in his head: Oh snap, she not happy, as Raven was about to unleash her most deadliness's weapon, her razor-sharp sarcasm. Instead of bowing, thought he knew she knows protocol, and when not to use it, that meant Raven was going to be very frank with Naruto and let it be known. Pacing back and forth looking at before she glared at him. So let me get this straight, you sent your possible one true love to the dungeons, tick. You really know how to treat a girl. Raven stated she was top form today. Sarcasm was as sharp as a katana sword. I know, bemoaned Naruto and hung his head. I will make it up to her, Naruto declared. Like make up or like make out, remarked Kyuubi. Shut up Kyuubi, yelled Naruto. It was his turn to blush. Kyuubi laughter was heard throughout the room. Good, she hasn't had it easy after your banishment and her life has taken a turn for the worst, spoke Raven while trailing the Konoha team. She overheard Hinata talk to that red-eyed woman about being branded in an arranged marriage to the son, one that has a lot of power, and wished Naruto would return. What? She's not sick, is she? Naruto said, then smack himself in the face, always thinking that she was sick. Kyuubi dragged her hand down her face and groaned. He may be older, wiser and smarter, but Naruto's was still thick-head at times. Raven felt for the girl after hearing her problem, and her ever-lovable shogun needed a kick in the pants. She in good heat. From what I overheard when she was talking to that woman with red eyes, it seems she has a few major problems. What kind of problems? Asked Naruto, but Raven shakes her head. Kyuubi knew the Hyuga clan hated her, and Naruto added Hinata dislike of outdated traditions, and her feelings for Naruto wouldn't go too well with the rest, but like Raven wouldn't speak of it. It's not my place to tell her story, she has to do it, said Raven, not wanting to overly upset Naruto soon after his outburst early today. It may be nothing, but I felt you should know. Shall I retrieve Lady Hinata? Asked Raven. Please, and escort her to my room, asked Naruto, grateful that his sister gave him a good kick in the right direction. I want to talk to her. We have a lot of time to make up. Most likely making out and doing it, remarked Kyuubi with a fox-like grin, as Naruto glared at the fox woman. Raven wisely got out of the room to spare her ears from the loud noise that was coming. Shut up Kyuubi, boomed throughout the palace. It had been only several hours since they were thrown into the dark prisons under the palace. But to the team from Konoha, it seemed like an eternity. A few cells from there's a poker game had been going on with the guards, and their only prisoner, a theft who seemingly was trying to steal something to prove he was greatest theft that ever lived, and it seemed he was more of an annoying visitor than a master theft who cowers in fear at some dancer he knows muttering about her red umbrella and hitting him too hard. Not a single word was spoken, as none could get over the fact that Naruto had not only rejected their plea for help, but also threatened them with death. Sakura was hugging her knees, muttering unheard apologies to her former teammate, the teammate she betrayed. Kiba just sat quietly, looking lifeless as he stared at the wall. His partner was muzzled and had been chained to the wall at his neck by the guards, not wanting to take risks with such a large nin dog. Kakashi had tears down his face, finally realizing how stupid he had been to abandon Naruto on so many occasions. Shino, like Kiba, just sat quietly on the ground, keeping to himself with an odd Fuin note on his chest placed by the guards knowing about his colony held the queen in a forced sleep genjutsu, leavening the colony paralyzed. Kurenai was trying desperately to comfort Hinata, who at this moment in time believed Naruto hated her after the way she was treated. She was going to marry that man her very own clan had chosen. She was going to be shipped out on her return Konoha with several other women, men and the elders to preserve the Hyuga clan in case Konoha is destroyed. It didn't comforted her that a few of the elders were looking at her with lust and wouldn't put it past them to sample her. You know, we are the reason why Naruto has turned out like this, Kurenai spoke, finally breaking the silence. Kakashi turned to her. But he is, after all, Konoha's most unpredictable ninja. Kakashi did a haunting laugh at the comment. He isn't Konoha's ninja anymore, Kurenai, he replied, and it's all Konoha's fault on the whole. We left him. We abandoned him. The genjutsu mistress signed in displeasure. Mind you, only Naruto could perform a miracle like this. To unite a war-torn land in such a short time, and turn it into the most powerful country on the continent, that truly is a great feat. Kurenai stated, impressed by how Naruto had managed to make a powerful ruler. Thinking about it, he really would make a great Hokage if he was given the chance. Not only that, he also has the Kyuubi under his command, and the people themselves look ready to die for him if he asked. Loyalties like that is something we shouldn't take lightly, Shino spoke, and both older ninja couldn't help but nod in agreement. Because he gave them something many haven't known in their entire lifetimes, he gave them peace, said Sakura. She read up on the history of the Western nations the wars fought here became known as the Warring States era. Suddenly they heard a roar in anger, and turned to see Kiba standing up and punch the wall, hard enough to cause his knuckles to bleed. One of the guards looked in on them hearing the racket and seeing Kiba bleeding. Knuckles throws a roll of bandages at him, telling Kiba not to get blood on his nice clean dungeon floor before going back to the poker game going on. Damn, I haven't felt this bad in all my life, he growled out, as he wraps his hand. I mean, I thought he was the Kyuubi. That was what my mom said after Naruto's secret got out. But after seeing both of them at the same time, and seeing how she was holding back when she punched me, damn it. Kiba collapsed to the ground. Kyuubi punch could have easily smashed his head like an overly ripened melon. Kiba, we made him this way, Sakura managed to say, still upset by what had happened. It's all our fault. I used to blame him for bringing Sasuke. I meant Sasuke back like he did, but now I realized he had no other choice. And I didn't see that because I was blinded by the fear of what he contained. Looking at her former teammate, hatred in his eyes, did she finally realize what she had done to him? She also realized how she never treated him with kindness, only with her fists. Now she wished that she could go back in time and be there for Naruto for all those years. Sakura had an idea, maybe she can indirectly make it up to Naruto. Until now, thinking back to their meeting with him, whenever he gazed at Hinata his eyes became less cold. Hinata didn't say anything in the conversation, as she was still trying to pull herself together after the incident with Naruto. She wished now that she had confessed to him much earlier, and cursed her shyness. She also wished that she went with Naruto, but she knew if she did that, then her father would not stand for it. She now believed that he hated her like all the rest. She was brought out of her thoughts by a comforting voice. Hey Hinata, she looked up to see Sakura smiling down at her. Don't be upset, I'm sure Naruto doesn't hate you. You are the only one who stayed by him, remember? Hinata wiped her tearful eyes. He's got no reason to hate you. I'm sure the glares he gave was directed at us. He said only one person was at his side and didn't hate, that was you, so don't be so hard on yourself. I would say that he still cares deeply about you. Hinata smiled at Sakura's gentle words. She now felt reassured. Pinky, there is right, spoke a voice. Every was looking at Raven, who was leaning against the cell door. They recognized the same woman who was with Kyuubi, and unknown to them trailed from the border to the capital. Well, it seems that you understand, Raven said, then spotted Hinata and gave one of her rare smiles. The Shogun would like to see you, Hyuga Hinata, and offers his deep-felt apologies to you as well for his harsh words. Lady Hinata, at the time the Shogun was not able to single you out from the other spies. Everyone flinched at the word spies. Using fake IDs and papers wasn't a good idea as it had been earlier. He would very much like to see you all be escorting you to him. This was a shock to Hinata. Naruto wanted to see her? Maybe Sakura was right. Hinata got up and quickly walked to the cell door. Raven motioned for the guard to unlock the cell door. The guard unlocked the door and allowed Hinata to get out, before closing and locking it again. How do you keep yourself from being detected? Asked Kakashi. It was bugging him. How did this Western ninja manage to remain hidden for so long? Raven stopped and turned her head. Looks at Kakashi. A ninja always finds ways, spoke Raven, and Kakashi felt a kunai against his face held by a pale gray hand that seemingly came from his own shadow. The hand retracted as Raven pulled her hand, still holding the kunai, from the sleeve of the robe she wore. The Nara never had such control over shadows. Refined though constant war, Western ninja jutsus surpass any jutsu and bloodlines from Konoha, stated Naruto. Thought everyone as Raven escorted Hinata to Naruto. It's like a sleeping dragon, muttered Sakura. Anyone who faces the Empire of the West would face a well-trained and war-hardened army. Now the only way for Empire of the West to even get involved is if Iwakumo and Otto tried something with the Empire of the West and pissed off Naruto to the point of him bringing the might of an empire he forged down on them. No, was that stupid, right? The Imperial Palace. Both young women walked towards the Shogun's private rooms. Hinata stopped. She was reminded even if she wanted to stay, the seal on her forehead caged her right to choose. I'm sorry B, but I wish to return to the cell, spoke Hinata, not waiting for Raven to respond. Hinata turned around back to the dungeon. Raven blinked at this, then went to grab Hinata's wrist. Oh no, you don't, Missy, you're not running away now, thought Raven. Hinata felt a hand grabbing her wrist. She was unprepared to be spun around and pinned to the wall by Raven, who had one hand holding both of her wrists against her chest, the other brushed aside the hair on her forehead that hid the birdcage seal hidden from everyone. Only Kurenai knew. She knows, thought Hinata, feeling Raven's hand brush aside her hair. I know everything, spoke Raven, making Hinata eyes widen before tearing up. Then you know I can't stay. I wouldn't hurt Naruto. I love him so much. He should forget about me. It's my fate to be unhappy and unloved. Hinata's lower lip tremble. I don't hear this. Mark ordering you around. Will it cause you pain if you speak your mind? And I don't see other Hyuga around. You're only hurting yourself and Naruto, stated Raven. Think with your heart and not this Mark. Raven said and releases Hinata. Hinata stared at Raven, who turns to the direction of Naruto room. Let's see if fate can be defied, spoke Raven and smiled. She had a good look. The birdcage seal, it was beyond outdated. Her clan used a similar seal. Then it hit her. The thought made Raven stumbled a little. The bird-caged seal was exactly like the wall-less cage seal they used on prisoners, only the bloodline seal and the pain-inducing segments were raised to life-threatening levels ever added, and they were of Roth designed. Raven-san, are you alright? Spoke Hinata. I'm fine, I just had a long day, that all, said Raven. Hinata nods. Raven's pep talk got her going to see Naruto, if it was for the last time. Naruto finished pouring up 2 glasses of wine when a light knock was heard from behind the door. Enter. Raven opened the door. She steps aside and allowed Hinata to enter. Naruto nods to Raven, knowing she had his complete trust. Thank you, Raven. Me and Hinata have some catching up to do. I want keep and have fun. You 2 inches, said Raven, and she smirked, seeing both of them have red cheeks. Naruto grumbled. Was everyone going to make suggestions like that? Most likely. As she walked down away from the shogun's quarters, Raven had to tell the clan about this and get some payback. You look very beautiful, said Naruto, making Hinata eep, looking at her feet. It's good to see you again, and Naruto-kun. She spoke silently, but still loud enough for him to hear. Said blonde smiled more than he had ever smiled in a long time. Hinata still cared about him. Both sat down on the couch. Care for a drink? Said Naruto, offered a glass, and Hinata, she kindly took it from his hands, and tasted the sweet liquid with a single sip. Looking down at the floor, I understand that you had TT to be harsh, said Hinata. Raven told her why he had to do that to her and reasons. I'm deeply sorry, Hinata-chan, said Naruto before taking another sip, for doing that to you, and also sorry that I never got time to spend some days alone with you. If I had been not so thick in the head as Kyuubi after stated, for me realized sooner how you felt about me. Maybe I would had a friend then. When we were older I would have asked you out on a date. Mind you, that offer's still open. If you are interested. Hinata was both deeply surprised and happy at what she just heard. Naruto did harbor feelings that were similar to her own. But, remembering that she had to do something when she got back to the village, Naruto quickly saw the downed look on her face, and became quickly concerned. I street till love you, but, said Hinata, it's not fair. It's not fair, she repeated in her mind, seeing this set off warning bells in Naruto's head. This must be the problems Raven spoke of. What's wrong, Hinata-chan? Tears began to form in the girl's eyes, making Naruto even more concerned about his very precious person. He stood up from the couch he sat on, and walked over to sit beside Hinata. Then he wrapped his arms around her in a comforting manner, which she quickly obliged as she cried onto his chest, finding much needed comfort in his arms. I have been forced in marriage with a son to a very powerful noble I don't like, because my clan wants more influence, whispered Hinata and pressed her head into his chest more, not wanting to leave him. Naruto's eyes narrowed. They always hurt her in some way, shape or form. Now what they did was going too far in his eyes. I'm going to destroy them and mount their heads on pikes. But to his shock, Hinata wasn't finished. They also did this. She lifted her hand up and revealed to Naruto her forehead. And to his horror, revealed what she bore. The caged bird seal. They put this seal on me and shoved me into the branch family. They claimed that I was too weak to lead the clan, and my feelings for you would bring dishonor to them. When I returned, they will ship me off with a few other women, some main branch and the elders, to the noble's land to preserve the Hyuga clan. On top of that, the elders might sample me too. Naruto's temper was raging by now, but he forced his anger down. He will get the last laugh. There was no way he even allowed some little prick noble and those prevented old men touch Hinata. Then as Shogun I will protect you and remove this duty from your shoulders, spoke Naruto. Lifting Hinata's head up by cupping her chin with his fingers, he gave the tearful girl a gentle, love-filled smile. Going though 20-hand seal Naruto hand became engulfed in blue fire and with the other hand lifting the fringe of hair on Hinata's forehead. With his other hand he pressed 2 fingers onto the center location of the branch seal. He spoke only a single word. Release. Hinata felt her brow burn, but as quickly as it started the burning it disappeared. What? Asked Hinata, rubbing her brow and hoped that Naruto didn't do something to the seal. Come over here, he asks and helps the very confused woman up and steered her to a mirror. What did you do to the seal? Asked Hinata, but looked right at her reflection. She gasped in great shock at what she saw. What seal? He asked with a humorous tone. The caged bird seal was no longer there. Hinata for one was too shocked for words. Naruto's smile got bigger. Being a seal master has its advantages. Adding the fact that this seal is out of date and you didn't forget about Kyuubi is no longer sealed in me already, besides getting Kyuubi free. That seal was easy to remove. Hinata dumbly nodded. She was too much in awe to say anything. She was free as a bird. She was once more free to fly up to the sun, free from the curse of the caged bird. Hinata turns to look up at Naruto. I am free but what do I do now? Naruto smiled and leant in, causing Hinata to blush more than she ever did before at how close they were, only a few centimeters apart. She felt his arms encircle her once again. She gasped as his hands rubbed her bottom and the smile became one of deviousness. Why don't we worry about that later? He spoke in a seductive whisper. And with that he closed his distance, leaving Hinata in sweet bliss for having her long-time dream come true. Oh my, whispered Hinata was guided to Naruto's bed as she was relieved of her coat, followed by several other parts, hers and Naruto's clothing, most notable Hinata's bunched up panties and Naruto's boxers. Hinata was going to like getting this kind of bliss. Early hours of the morning Hinata was awakened by the rays of the sun shining through the windows. Hinata stretched her upper body, letting the covers fall, showing her pale nude upper body. Naruto-kun, call out Hinata as she covered herself with the sheets and looked around for her clothes but found them gone, but saw a lovely lavender kimono with matching slippers and a pair of bra and panties. Naruto most likely had them cleaned but gotten her something to wear after she found a note saying Naruto had to do somethings and would be back later. After dressing, Hinata decided to nose around Naruto's private rooms. It had a mix of old and new, taking note of a large closet. She opened the double doors and gasps. Before her sat a suit of samurai armor. The helmet crest had been shaped like fox ears and the face mask is shaped like a fox's snout. The entered samurai armor had black and orange colors. Hanging behind the armor is the same burnt orange sleeveless overcoat Naruto wore yesterday. Tracing the mask with her hand, her eyes wander around. On the sides were sealing and storage scrolls, ninja and samurai weapons. Then she saw a rack of tri-pointed kunai along with a long kunai-like sword and a broad sword that made her shivered. I want to use this weapon but don't want to, Hinata thought as she felt its aura. She tried to fight the pull of drawing the broad sword, but the kunai sword's own aura blazed, shaking Hinata out of the trance she was in. What was that? Thought Hinata as she held her hand close to her chest. I wouldn't touch that broad sword, it tends to draw unprepared, spoke Kyuubi, startling Hinata. I am sorry, I shouldn't have noise around, spoke Hinata. Kyuubi chuckled as she moved to close the closet. MMH? Well, it seems both swords approved of you. Only the pure of heart can lit the dragon's sword's fire, and one of strength of will contain the blade of the Demon King. Hinata saw both blades' auras glow. A fiery aura came from the dragon's sword and a purple mist-like aura came from the blade of the Demon King. I'm not that great, muttered Hinata, but Kyuubi pinched her. Ow, why did you do that? Then stop putting yourself down, leave the old Hinata behind in the east or I'll give you such a pinch. Kyuubi threatened, and with those claws Hinata would feel those pinches for years. Alright, but why does Naruto have such weapons? Asked Hinata. It's long story. Have you ever heard of the Demon King of the West? Said Kyuubi as she tells Hinata the story of how Naruto gains both blades. Later, the team from Konoha had assembled themselves in front of the palace gates. Around them was a large group of samurai and ninjas that are escorting them back to Konoha. Already they were wondering what the reactions of those in the village would be when they find out that the Emperor of the West was their former demon vessel. Kakashi signed. He wasn't going to look forward to it. Are we ready? He asked everyone. They nodded and were ready to move when a voice stopped them, telling them to wait. Turning around they saw the Kyuubi and Hinata walking towards them. There has been a slight change in plans. I am to escort you to the border as well. Kyuubi turned to face the Konoha ninjas and gave them a cruel, sadistic, and demonic smile. This in turn caused the nin to shiver in fear. I love being me. I have to deliver a message and scare the pants off of Konoha hihihi. They were defiantly not looking forward to the trip back home. Kyuubi just chuckled at their reactions, as she just loved to mess with their heads, making them feel true terror. Shall we begin the journey to the border? She asked. Kakashi reluctantly nodded, and they all proceeded to walk to the city gates. All but Hinata. Kurenai noticed this and turned to the girl. What's wrong, Hinata? She asked. This got everyone's attention, making them turn to the shy Hyuga. I'm not going back. Hinata said this, their eyes widened in disbelief. What? Kurenai? What about the— Oh, Hinata showed her unmarked forehead and had that determined look in her eye. Naruto must have. He is something, thought Kurenai. I'm staying here with Naruto-kun. I'm staying with the person I love. But what about Konoha and your clan? Asked Sakura. She knew Hinata would stay but she needed to know her other reasons. Shino and Kiba wanted to know as well. I had been branded and married off to a noble's son. Even if I wanted to fight, I was leaving Konoha on my return with several other women, a few main branch and the clan elder who would sample me, no doubt ageist my will to persevere the clan. That's a joke, a really bad joke, said Sakura. Both Western and Konoha-in became disgusted with Hyuga. She right, I was unable to say any because of clan laws and I was Hinata guardian requested by them. If I did spoke out I would have been removed as her guardian. Hinata would have been left alone after the other rookies turned your backs to her after hearing her love for Naruto. I may have disliked Naruto but he made Hinata happy and her happiness is more important to me, said Kurenai as she walked up to Hinata and hugs the younger woman, telling her she'll miss her. As both Shino and Kiba looked ashamed, but after thinking about what Hinata said, Kiba got angry. You're saying those teams would have sent you and several other skilled ninja with some old men so they can have their grooved on while the rest of us will died? Spat Kiba. His clan would fight to the bitter end for Konoha. They only send the kids and pups with the elders and pack elders to safety. How noble the Hyuga are, remarked Kyuubi. The disgust oozed from her mouth. But there may be no war. This got every from Konoha to look at her. The shogun had been hasty in not helping Konoha. He is still not sending aid, but he can apply some incentive to Earth and Lighting County's rulers to pull in both hidden villages due to the leader of Otto less than shining reputation and the loss of trade income. I would like nothing more than to sink my claws into that snake's hide, but all settled with his little snake pit get trampled by Konoha. This is more than good. Konoha will grateful, said Kakashi. They better be, but probably not. I know Konoha, I know how it thinks being in that village for 3 lifetimes, remarked Kyuubi. Everyone stared. The fox woman Kyuubi was living in Konoha when it was founded. Kyuubi, called out Raven as she jogged up to the fox woman and handed her a scroll. What's this? Asked Kyuubi, who opens it and started reading the scroll. Oh my, it must be my birthday, said Kyuubi. Smiled the same evil smile. That smile doesn't bode well for Konoha, muttered Shino. Roth demands satisfaction for this. I sent a letter to my clan and got response moments ago and has been confirmed at the item stolen by them after killing Ezer Roth, greatest sealing master. The damage done to his major organs and chakra coils match what you knew about their fighting style, said Raven, looking very angry. Did the Hyuga kill Roth Ezer? Asked Hinata. Put everything together. Getting a stare from Raven, Kyuubi placed a hand on the woman's shoulder. Yes, Ezer was killed by the Hyuga, who stole and perverted several seals he made into the birdcage seal. Please forgive me, asked Hinata, who got on her hands and knees, her head to the ground. Forgive you? You have nothing to do with this. Please get up. It's not right for Naruto. Nay, I meant the shogun's consort to bow like this. I'm not mad at you, just, said Raven. But your clan, the Roth, demands satisfaction or there will be war, right? Hinata interrupted Raven. I offer myself. Hinata was stopped when a very familiar voice called out. Hinata-chan, you're not taking the blame for Hyuga actions. They abused and used you for too long. They will have to deal with the blowback, said Naruto as he walked towards Hinata and got her to stand up. But, Naruto put his finger to her lips. You're too kind at time that the reasons I care and love you so much, making Hinata blushed. Hyuga and their elders will be forced to face this without you, remarked Naruto. They had brought this on themselves, said Kyuubi. Rolled up the scroll and placed it into her sleeve. I'll see to this, you have my word, little sister. Raven did a short bow and returned to the palace. Sakura mouthed, little sister. We'll kept your departure off long enough, after all I ordered it after all. Kyuubi, try not to make them sweat too much and make sure you take pictures of their faces. I'll try not to have too much fun, shall we? Said Kyuubi and offered her arm to Kakashi, who heisted a little for fear of losing his book-holding arm. Be very well, Kyuubi-sama, said Kakashi. I'm going to die, I'm going to die, I'm going to die, he thought as he takes a hold of her arm and Kyuubi locks her elbow with his. So is that crater in the mountains still there? I never taken the time to see my handiwork up close. Konoha was going to love this thought, the Konoha ninja leavening two former comrades behind but taking along the greatest walking disaster that had befallen Konoha years after its founding. Can I see what's under that mask, Kakashi-kun? Asked Kyuubi a bit too sweetly for Kakashi liking. It better not be another mask. Greatest walking disaster ever, thought Kakashi. A young tan girl with orange eyes, lime green hair, wearing a off-white mid-drift sleeveless shirt and short skirt with mesh netting shorts and top on her arms were a pair of arm warmers. Around her right arm is the symbol of Takigakure no Sato was taking a short break. She had been on the run for weeks, only stopping to eat. Even then she barely had time to even do that. Even with 7 sending extra chakra, her body could only be pushed so much. Fu, I can still feel them behind you, need to hurry. Fu's eyes widen with fear. Shit, why can I be left alone? Said Fu. They want me, you're just something to hold me in. Fu was already jumping through the trees, but ahead of her a clay bird dived down and exploded. With a scream, Fu had been thrown to the ground. Just give up, girly, yay. 7 tails, you prove a bit of a problem for us. Think that heading west would save you? The 9 tails will be captured in due time. Rolling to her stomach, Fu stared at both Akatsuki. Get up, Fu, get up now. Fu, do you want to die? Maybe this was meant to be. I can't go on, I'm not strong enough. Dropping her head, closed Fu her eyes and awaited her fate. 3 kunai embedded into the ground in front of the 2 Akatsuki. You're trespassing, and I highly doubt this young lady here likes being in the company of the likes of you. A female voice spoke. Hey, who the heck are you? Yay, shouted Deidara. What? Whispered Fu, looking at the backside of a dark blue cloak of someone who was protecting her. This wouldn't matter, those two just have to say I'm a demon to get anyone to back off. Thought Fu it happened before it only ended with herself on the run again. That girlie behind you holds a demon, yay, said Deidara, smirking. Anyone who tried to the 7 tails would shun her like she had the plague. The woman was silent for a moment before shaking her head. You mean she's a Jinchuriki? A host to a Biju doesn't make her a demon. Heck, demons would be a bit insulted of a Jinchuriki being called a demon. Taken off guard for a moment, both Akatsuki got ready to kill this interloper. Then let me put this way, back off or we will kill you and anyone related, as a warning to anyone who dares to stand in Akatsuki's way, stated Sasori. I've been threatened by the worst of the worst and fought them. You think I would back off? Not happening, said the woman. Her chakra began to rise at a high rate. What a fool, grunted Sasori as he sent out his bladed tail at the woman and removes her head, only for the body to implode into a cloud of smoke. A shadow clone. I thought the 9 tails and Konoha used that jutsu, said Sasori. Akatsuki had very little intel on the west, seeing as the Akatsuki main goals were in the east, but after the 9 tails drop off the map, the Akatsuki was trying to make contacts and underbid the local ninjas like they had been doing in the east. It wasn't as successful as they had foreseen. In fact, it failed. Every province had a dedicated ninja and samurai protection and doing requested missions as long as it didn't clash to harm the empire as a whole. Added impossible to forge mission papers to the shogun. Hearing about Akatsuki reputation had banned them before they got a foothold in the west. Any agent they had in the west were killed or imprisoned long ago. Like the shogun had grudge against the Akatsuki. This had forced Akatsuki to rethink its normal tactics for more direct action, like sparking unrest to killing government officials and take out a few clans, so the empire would have to rely on them, but for the meantime Akatsuki would hunt the Jinchuriki. Said Deidara, looking around for the woman only to feel a presence behind him. Behind me, Deidara. Shadow reaping blade, said the dark blue robe woman, who draws a collapsible sickle. In one simple move the weapon extends out and removes Deidara's arm. Shouted Deidara at the loss of his arm. He quickly created a clay bird to get some height, only to see the woman making hand seals only to dodge Sasori's stinger. You're very skilled, you will make a fine puppet for my collection, remarked Sasori, lashing out his metal stinger. taking care and not to damage his next puppet too badly. I think I'll pass, remarked the woman as she deflected the stinger with her sickle, causing sparks to fly. Sasori replied to that was a barrage of needles fried from a pair of long drums the puppet ninja had summoned, followed up by a volley of kunai with explosive tags tied to them. A large explosion rocked the entire area and sent birds fleeing of miles. Fu was trying to get up as both Akatsuki were fight with the woman. Another person came towards Fu. "Can you move?" The now identified woman with light pale gray with purple shoulder-length hair and dark purple eyes with 2 red and black tattoos on both cheeks, checks, dressed in a tight black shirt with no sleeves, the 7-tailed Jinchuriki wounds. Fu stared at the teen who seemed a few years younger than her. "Why are you helping me? What's in it for you?" "It's the right thing to do. No one has the right to hunt a person down," said the woman. As the woman was helping Fu up when an explosion right behind sent them flying though the air. Fu landed hard on her wrist, breaking it. Fu out a strained whimper and held her broken wrist close to her chest. The other woman landed on her back. Thankfully her armor saved her from much of the hard landing. "I am going to be sore after this," the woman muttered, rubbing her head. Shaking the cobwebs from her head, the woman checked on Fu, who was in large amount of pain. "Try not to move," said the woman. "You should leave me here, they will kill you," said Fu, a little in awe. She was still trying to recover from the blast while the young woman had already recovered and still helping her. "Maria." "What?" asked Fu. "My name is Roth Mara, and your name is?" asked Maria. "My name is Fu," said Fu. Both felt a large burst of chakra. They turned their heads in the direction of the burst, saw a large amount of people seemingly floating in the air before they seemingly dived down into the forest. "Fu, you may not believe this. I promise you we will not let them take you. Besides, you're not the first Jinchuriki I meant my clan has help, and those 2 Akatsuki may be hot shit back east. I doubt they can match the lowest S-ranking fighters here. My mother is a high S rank near SS, so that hunchback with that tail and whatever those things were wouldn't be too much to handle. Fu, this woman she speaks of most likely been in more battles than your entire village put together, and I seen battles in the West in days of freedom that rivaled the large engagements in all hidden wars put together," spoke Chomei. Fu turned to see were sounds of combat, and for the first time in weeks Fu felt hope. Both felt another burst of chakra in the same area where the battle was happening. Both Mara and Fu saw a giant black bird appear, easily batting away the would-be attackers like toys. "Damn, mom's taking the fight up a notch," muttered Mara before looking over to Fu. "Your mother? What are you doing out here anyway?" asked Fu, seeing was a bit too good to be true. "Training. You had entered my clan's training area. If that explosion hadn't happened we would have never had come across you, and any roving guards that were out wouldn't had arrived in time," said Maria. Rubbed the back of her head. Fu blinked before another explosion knocked both young women back. "Damn it, mom!" shouted Mara as she pushes bits of trees and dirt off her body. "Stop with all the explosions already. I think it was safer on the ran," muttered Chomei in Fu's head, who nodded in agreement. "So you finally came out of your shell of sorts," remarked the woman, her cape and hood waved in the wind. "Looks like your friend has abandoned you." Seeing that I had removed his arm, said the woman like it was normal, like talking about the weather. "He is my partner, nothing more," stated Sasori. "I'm more annoyed that you ruined my favorite puppet." The woman purple eyes seemingly glowed from the shadow of her hood. "I did a lot more than ruin you, puppet, seeing that you robe his hair away from falling off," remarked the woman. Sasori eyes widened as he discovered he was missing a few items. Sasori had been forced to reveal his true body after his favorite puppet had been torn to pieces by living masses of shadows. It had happened so fast he barely saved the scroll that held his puppets, but at the cost of the scrolls holding fuel for his flamethrower and water for his water jets. "Maybe it would be a good time introduce ours to one another. I am Sasori of the Red Sand," said Sasori. "Erla of the Roth clan, mistress of shadows, bandit slayer of the West." Sasori stared at the woman before removing his robe. "As you can see, I'm no mere bandit," spoke Sasori. "What have done to yourself?" asked Erla, her eyes widened seeing Sasori truth form. It was clear he modified himself to be a living puppet. That's a new one on Erla's list. "I have taken my art to a greatest level and became everlasting that will withstand the tests of time," said Sasori while his blade arms extended out. "You turned yourself in a monster, and the only reason I can think of that you couldn't handled life as a human with its hardships, but because of those hardships we find joy," said Erla. Sasori's face showed no emotion, but the way Sasori was looking at her, she had hit the nail right on the head. I tire of this pointless talk. Beside you shall be witness to a jutsu that has destroy a whole nation. Behold secret red move performance of 100 puppets," said Sasori and unrolled the scroll. Soon hundreds of puppet came out. Erla eyes widened at the sight of the puppets. Each one was different, they looked almost human. Then Erla had a very chilling thought. "They're not made out of wood, are they?" stated Erla, and there was a smell, a very faint smell. She knew all too well the smell of dried blood. "They're my opponents who I found worthy to become everlasting art," proclaimed Sasori. Erla covered her mouth to stop the bile that wanted to come out. After composing herself, Erla looked at the puppet man in front of her with hate and with a little, "That is an atrocity," shouted Erla. "You defiled them. Even we ninja show some dignity to a fallen enemy body. Ninjas are tools, it's a fact. I only using them like they were in life. Now please die," said Sasori and opened up a panel on his chest. Chakra threads came out by the 100s and each one attracted to their own puppet. "The skill of a puppet user is determined by the number of puppets they can control," said Sasori. Erla began to counter-attack. Shadows around her lashed out, impaling, slicing and crushing puppets. "I battle ageist numbers before and I'm still standing," said Erla as she spins her weapon and sliced another puppet. "Who? It's pointless. All the weapons they wield are coated in my special poison, which would kill the victims after 3 days of painful paralysis," stated Sasori. Lone blade cut across her shoulder, tearing the fabric of her cape to show dull gray metal. Seeing this, she needs some space. Erla made one-handed hand. A ball of shadow rises up from the shadows. Soon the shadow ball shot out tentacles, destroying puppets as they came. "You're right, it is pointless," said Erla. Then she bit her thumb and smeared blood across her palm, putting her hands together. Erla a short run of hand seals. At this point Sasori had already sent his puppets at the Erla, but it was too late. "Summoning jutsu," shouted Erla, slamming her bloody palm down. A web array formed, followed by a exploding out rush of white smoke. Crossed arms standing atop a giant crow. "Now here's a trick we pick up from the Toad Sage and Gamabuta Toad Oil Boiler. I don't have the oil, but I got the Fire Steel Knight. I need some wind." "At once, mistress." The summons gained some high before let loose. "Wind torrent of hell," shouted Erla. The crow flapped its massive wings, creating tornado force winds that easily picks up the hovering puppets into vortexes. Erla throws open her cape, releasing hundreds of exploding tags that were taken along by the wind into the vortex with the puppets. Erla watches the spinning mass of puppet parts, tags and wind before snapping her forefinger and thumb together. "Burn," said Erla. An explosion rocked the area for a second time, causing a few trees to fall over from the powerful blast. Even from where both Fu and Mara were both blown back by blast wave. As for Sasori, all of his puppets were gone as the wind had picked up the scroll into the maelstrom before the tags detonated. As Sasori was thrown back by a gush of wind, follow up by a black talon pining him to the ground. Before Sasori could even try to escape, Erla was already on top of him and stabbed him where he had compressed and stored his internal organs with her staff's bladed end. "How did you know?" said Sasori, feeling blood drain from his core. "I fought a man who had sealed his own organs in same way you had done," said Erla and gave a hard twist, causing more blood to come out, making Sasori jerked. "It wasn't hard to see it on your chest was a blaring weak point. How foolish of me to have underestimated you, or maybe I wanted to die as a reminder I was still human," said Sasori. The gears inside his puppet body slowed down. "We are all human behind the mask that is ninja," said Erla. Sasori nodded, understanding. "As a reward for beating me, even if you only delayed us," said Sasori. Erla eyes narrow. Fu bit back a scream as her wrist was popped back into place before a splint was made. "This should keep it straight." "How fast do you heal?" asked Mara. "Bearing anything major a day at most," muttered Fu. Bit her lip a little as pain flared from her writ as Mara tied the bandages. "A lot slower than Naruto's healing ability," remarked Maria as she finished tending to Fu's wounds. Fu head shot up and looked at Maria. "You know Naruto?" "Yes, she does, do I, but for now we need to leave right now. I got information that the Shogun need to be made aware of," said Erla as Steel Knight pushed his way through the mass of trees. Erla looked at Fu. "You're not afraid of heights, are you?" "No," said Fu as she eyed the large summons who looked right at her like she was a worm. Added the fact that Shichibi didn't like birds because they like to eat beetles. "Why did it have to be a bird?" muttered Chomei while Fu remembered to see if she could find a replacement nest. Her original had been killed off by a poison mist from the hunchback. Even now she still mourns at their lost. "Mom, what are those rings?" asked Mara, seeing Erla stare at 2 rings she held in her fingers. More than rings, replied Erla as she studied the rings. These are part of a sealing jutsu to remove biju from a jinchuriki, and without them it will take longer to unseal a biju. Mara gave her mother a look. This fujutsu is very cruel. It destroys the host chakra much like a miner using a shiftier to look for gold to get at the bijus or any kind of thicker chakra. Erla spoke. Clearly the Akatsuki cared little about the jinchuriki. Mara frowned as Fu gulps, seeing the Roth clan leader held her hand. Don't worry, I only wish to study them. Besides, this removes an important part of their plans, said Erla, picking up on Fu's worry. I don't know you, so I can't really trust you, said Fu. How can you not? Our actions speak louder than words, said Erla, and offered her hand to Fu, who slowly raised her own hand to grasp Erla's. She speaks wisely, Fu. Besides, you got lucky 7 with you, said Chome. About time, it was good luck. Hey. Okay, I would like to ask for sanctuary, asked Fu. Granted, now let's get going. The shogun has to be informed, stated Erla, her eyes scanned around the area. I don't feel safe to send a message to the clan. Erla said she feels something wasn't right but had been unable to pin down what was wrong. A large fly trap rises up from the earth as a swirl distorted the air next the fly trap, and a robed man with a orange swirl mask coming, though watching the large summons fly away. That woman had taken the rings. That theft, I say, kill her then eat her, said the fly trap. What a bad girl. I think Toby should be a very bad boy in return, said Toby, having found Didera arm. I didn't tag any of them. The lead bitch had them already on that bird. Good thing Toby had played hide and seek here once, said Toby. Soon Red Cloud was coming to cast its shadow over the land. After a week of sleepless nights they arrived at Konoha gates, and this time the Konoha team learned that Kyuubi had a wicked sense of humor. Kurenai was spared from Kyuubi pranks aside from the troops. When asked why spare Kurenai from her wrath, Kyuubi replied, she may have hated Naruto once, but she did raise Hinata when she was cast aside and done good by her. If Kurenai hadn't, Kyuubi had something planned for Kurenai that involved tentacles in mind, lots of tentacles. Kurenai shuddered at the thought of being the main star in one of Jiraiya's more unusual books. Sakura looked haggard, her hair stuck out everywhere. She attempted to wash the glue out but wasn't able to get all of it. She had to wait till after giving her report to take a long hot shower. Kiba and Akamaru looked very subdued but looked ready to snap at the same, but jumped at the sound of a cat that had meowed. Shino looked well less Shino-like and leave it at that. Kakashi looked ready to comment suicide after having to read a yaoi book. Where she got it he didn't or even want to know. Kyuubi was in a good mood. She wore a cape with a hood and a blank Anbu mask to hide her looks. It wouldn't be too good if she caused mass panic, yet. Now remember, don't say anything about me or Naruto, whispered Kyuubi. I want them unaware for maximum shock effect. We understand, sighed Kakashi. Konoha was in for a shock as he reported in on the mission to the gate guards. Do not threat Kakashi-kun, I'm not going on a killing rampage. I may have to hurt a few. Kyuubi trailed off. It didn't fill Kakashi with hope. Walking down the main street, many ninjas and village stopped and looked at Western delegation and started whispering. Finally reaching Hokage Tower, a Anbu told them that the Hokage was in a meeting with the 2 councils. Perfect, spoke Kyuubi. She didn't to run all over the place now. Everyone important that she needed to see were all in one spot. I feel sorry for the 2 councils, muttered Kiba to Shino, who nodded. As the group was directed to the 2 council chambers, Kyuubi only remarked was, they remodel. Kakashi, you're back. I trust that the shogun can help us, asked Tsunade hopeful. Homura, Kaharu and Danzo looking at Kakashi, then to the masked person beside him, a woman judging by the height, but the cloak, hood and the mask made impossible to be sure. The Shogun of the West wasn't too pleased when he found out about our team entered his empire, or the fake ids and papers. My team used to enter the capital of the empire and we had to spend the night in the dungeons, said Kakashi. Tsunade's face fell. This wasn't what she wanted to happen. So your team failed? No doubt my useless daughter's fault, said Hiyashi. Hardly, spoke the masked person, now know to be woman. And who are you? Snapped Hiyashi. He actives his Byakugan but cried out in pain, holding his head. What happened? Asked a civilian. I don't take to kindly at intimidation tactics, and to answer the man with those white eyes, I'm the Empire of the West's envoy and the Shogun's trusted advisor, the envoy coolly stated, and lets go of the hand seal she made from under her cloak. Why are you here then? Junin Kakashi stated that Empire of the Wests will not help Konoha, spoke Tsunade. The war here between your villages doesn't threaten the Empire, so the Shogun's stance is that the Empire will not send military aid, started the envoy but was cut off. Why not? Surely the Shogun knows the gains in helping Konoha conquer her enemies and the spoils that can be gained, spoke Danzo, appealing to what he thought was a warlord turned shogun. So who is the Hokage? Asked the envoy, sounding annoyed. Tsunade, replied Danzo. So she should be speaking to me, said the envoy, tilting her head to the right as if she was talking to a child. Yes, but it doesn't matter, rebuffed Danzo, making Tsunade mad. So your role would be then him? The envoy questioned. Advisor to the Hokage, Danzo answered. Are all Easterns as confusing as you? Then I'm an advisor, but I don't talk for the Shogun. I advised not speak for the Shogun and speak for him when he is not present, the envoy stated, making her guards and parts of the two councils chuckled at Danzo, who realized he was duped into talking like a fool. How dare! Shut up, Danzo! Snapped Tsunade, cutting Danzo off and sent a glare to the rest of the two councils. After Danzo had settled down, being browbeaten by Tsunade. What is the Shogun willing to help Konoha besides military aid? Trade embargo. It will hurt them a lot faster than it would hurt the Empire and can be lifted quickly enough after the talks are finished, barring any outside interfere, the envoy spoke curtly. Tsunade and the two elders nodded. Even Danzo had to agree. A trade embargo both hurt Lighting and Earth would Curiel Iwa and Kumo, leaving Otto all alone. Ah, I see, said Tsunade, nodding, but one of the civilians on the council stand up, not understanding. What kind of help is trade going to do? We need soldiers and weapons, not knickknacks. Raw iron ore are not knickknacks. Both Lighting and Rock ships the ore to the Empire, who can refine the ore into steel, which we then sell back to Lighting and Rock. Now what can steel be used for? Stated the envoy. Ah, said the civilian. Weapons. It's easier to ship raw ore than to refine locally. Lighting and Rock only have to pay half the amount to get high quality steel they would normally get. Going to fire to have refined. You troublesome idiot, muttered Shikaku. Why should we sell them steel of good quality to our enemies that they can use to make better weapons to use on us? Shouted another civilian. That way of thinking is what started this little mess. Steel isn't used only for weapons. Many building projects in both Lighting and Earth had failed because of poorer quality of steel used, causing many deaths. Steel sold to them by fire. Seeing as Konoha who made the suggestion to the fire daimyo, said the envoy. What? Shouted Tsunade, slamming both hands down on the table. You're telling me Konoha is at fault for the impending war with Otto Iwa and Kumo? See your reaction. You didn't know, said the envoy, then thought for a moment. Otto is Konoha enemy, and seeing the opportunity to get two major villages with long-standing feuds with Konoha on its side, said the envoy. If had been known, this may have been resolved without the Empire getting involved. Not that I mind, at least Naruto happy with Hinata. I got to make sure Konoha understands that they can't bully the Empire. Hehehe, this will be fun, thought Kyuubi. You're damn right I didn't, and I'm sure the fire daimyo would have seen that would cause trouble. Fuck, shouted Tsunade and banged her fist on the table. Naruto did hate the place and knew about this problem and wasn't able to justify military actions. In fact, Naruto was actually waiting for an envoy from Fire or Konoha, but Konoha entered the capital using less than trustworthy means. Unless he was under a genjutsu or was lied to. After my business here is done, I will inform him and informed his counterparts in Earth and Lighting. The Shogun rules the Empire as a whole, with the daimyo ruled their lands under the Empire's banner, still maintain their own armies and fund ninja and samurai clan. The Shogun had to deal with daimyo's usual infighting to clans, started something with their old enemies over what happened 100 years ago. Having to deal with the hidden villages crap is not a good way to get on his good side. I believed in cleaning house with new fresh blood. It would do Konoha and Fire a world of good. If the old guard don't like it, a kunai would work just as good, the envoy said, making some pale scene. Tsunade drummed her fingers in thought. And overbearing clan heads too, added the envoy, making a few clan heads glare at her. So that's why he was so hostile, said Sakura, thinking that Kyuubi was billed. No, he is that mad at Konoha for what they did long before this happened, replied the envoy, making Sakura hang her head down in shame. Konoha hasn't wronged the Shogun. Why would he hate Konoha? And for that matter, where is my daughter? I was just informed she hadn't arrived my clan compound, demanded Hiyashi. A ninja had given a note from the elders that his daughter hasn't arrived or had even entered the village. She is with the shogun after having found out the area less oppressed no, boxed in no, less bird caged like the shogun founded the lock easy to pick, said the envoy. Making Hiyashi pale before his face twisted from shock to anger, he attacked the envoy, striking dead center, making her double over. The western ninja and samurai reacted and Konoha Anbu moved in, surrounding the group from the west. "Hiyashi, do you know what just did?" roared Tsunade, but Hiyashi shout back, "Be quiet, this is Hyuga clan business. The empire has taken the Byakugan as its own. Konoha must send hunters to the west to kill that traitor daughter of mine. As for this, I just sending them a message." Hiyashi finished and got up from his finishing stance, or tried to, but found his hand in an iron vice grip. "Hiyashi, I think you should start begging for mercy, but I doubt you'll get any," warned Kurenai, but really hoped Hiyashi was going to get it. "Kurenai, what are you talking about?" yelled Tsunade, but felt a rise in chakra from the envoy. "Who are you?" whispered Hiyashi. His Byakugan wasn't being blocked now, he can see red chakra coils. A hand reaches up to the mask and removed it halfway to show a blood-red eye with a black slit. "It seems I'm going to be apologizing to Lady Hinata on my return, but what, after knowing your intent on knowing her newfound freedom, I don't think she would," spoke the envoy, and declarified Konoha misdeeds to the shogun, who is well known by the people of this village and the slights done to him. "Who I freely pledged my loyal after freeing and granting me a body of my own. You all know me very well. I am known to the Empire of the West as Belheim at times, but to the east my name is feared by all. With one swish of my tails I can level mountains and cause tilde waves." The envoy throws Hiyashi back to the now scared shitless council. Ripping off the cloak to reveal a blood-red-haired woman with her normally hidden ears and tail out. Red chakra formed around her, adding to her tail. 2, then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. "Hello Konoha, I'm back," as an evil smile graces the woman's face. "Kyuubi," whisper Tsunade at the now unmasked demon fox. Her chakra had receded. Everyone held a bated breath as Kyuubi pulled out something black from behind and put it up near her face. The click followed by a flash that caused cries of surprise and fear. Back to the Western Empire capital. Sitting in an open-air tea shop, Hinata watched the crowd, somewhat daydreaming. Hinata was still a bit overwhelmed at the 180 her life has taken. She was a branch house Hyuga, doomed to an arranged marriage to a noble, and would most likely be raped by dirty old Hyuga elders, to being reunited with her true loved had made love, and who happened to be the ruler of an empire. If Hinata was a gold digger, she would have hit pay dirt. She would miss Konoha, but there wasn't anything to tie her down there. Her sister used the seal on her, saying she was her better. The seal now proves it and laughs at her pain. Thinking about that, Hinata wished she had beat her little sister. Her so-called father had arranged the marriage. Pretty much killed any feeling to him she had left, and everything she wanted was right here. "Hinata, Hinata," said Raven, shaken Hinata from her thoughts. "Sorry, I was just thinking you were saying something." Hinata sipped some tea. "You told me that your good diplomat skills were second to none," asked Raven, turning her teacup with her fingers. "Yes. I've been asked by Naruto to ask you if you like to fill in for Kyuubi when her Fox Yoki mating cycle kicks in," Raven bluntly stated, causing Hinata to choke on the half-eaten rice ball and tea she was washing down with. Raven patted Hinata's back a few times. "Kyuubi, what cycles?" said Hinata, wiping her mouth. "Ahehe, Kyuubi mating cycles. You know, in the East Yoki Oni and demons are very rare, but here you don't need to look very hard to find one," said Raven, and she pointed to several wolf, cat and bird yoki. They looked human save for the ears and tails as they mulling around, and even one of those tall, brute-like ogres pulling a cart with wares that he was selling. "Wow, I never really noted," muttered Hinata. "You said something about fox yoki mating cycles," after saying that caused a passing wolf yoki to laugh, and turned to the pair. "You never heard how wild they get? When their cycles kick in, they screw anything with 2 legs, even 4 legs if they're horny enough. But why settle for scrawny fox when you can get a full male wolf?" said the yoki with a grin, making Hinata a bit uncomfortable. Raven grabbed the yoki's shirt and blasted him with rightist's female killer intent, RFKI. "Back off," said Raven, holding a kunai to the yoki's throat as the man saw the hidden weapons Raven carried. The wolf yoki left with his tail literally between his legs and his ears pressed against his head. "Thank you, I was bit off guard. I'm still not used to everything that has happened," Hinata smiled. "It's okay, if you want I can be one of your bodyguards." "Naruto hasn't told you yet?" asked Raven. "He did say something, but I'm a chunin with element jutsus under my belt. Added my fighting style, I can take care of myself." Hinata declared in high-born tone. I never said you can't fight, but a lady of a house has cartel of bodyguards. Naruto has them too, but normally Kyuubi act as his bodyguard. Only the most powerful demons would have any chance in getting it. Naruto added the fact he was a warlord. You don't get that rank without getting in the thick of. Believe me, I seen his in action. But I'm getting sidetracked. We watch out for danger and act as advisors, be your friends if allowed it. Of course you can, my friend, shouted Hinata, getting a few stares. Naruto didn't order you, did he? She asked. She didn't want to be treated like a glass doll. Settle down, I'm not ordered to be your friend, you're a good person and you made Naruto my brother truly smile. In years he only did it once when my mother made him and big sister Kyuubi part of my family and of the clan, said Raven, rubbing the back of her neck. I always wanted another sister besides my twin. Would love you and so will my mother. I honored, thank you, said Hinata, and she hugs Raven. So sister, when do you need me to fill in for Kyuubi when her cycles kick in? Hinata had a blush. She wasn't used to talking about mainly 4 times a year for about a week or two. Normally Kyuubi gives fair warning ahead of time, but it seems she has found the one in this city. I feel sorry for the guy beside Naruto, which you know firsthand how much stamina he has. Hinata blushed hard and had a little perverted giggle as well. You can just picture how much Kyuubi has. Oh Kami, I need a man in my life, spoke a now gloomy Raven who was hugging her legs as she swatched down, doodling in the dirt as a few rain cloud appear over her head. Oh dear, muttered Hinata as she tried to get Raven out of her gloom. It seems dating prospects in the west was as bad as dating prospects was in the east. In the land of water, the Mizukage was reminded of her lack of a man in her life. Need a man. Need a man. Need a man. One of her aides Ao entered her office. Ao, shut up before I kill you, yelled Terumi Mei. I didn't say anything this time, thought Ao, thinking his cage was going to lose it like the last one, but without genjutsu that started it. Back in the capital, it was night time when both Raven and Hinata returned to the palace. Raven showed Hinata the city, getting to know each other. Hinata wondered why there wasn't any guards with them. It was a lot easier to blend in with the crowd than showing everyone that you're important. Soon both parted ways, for Hinata was found by Naruto. Soon Hinata and Naruto enjoy a quiet stroll in the palace garden as they neared a pond. Naruto, what did you want to show me? Well, I heard when you go on a date, said Naruto with a blush. This was a bit awkward for him as it was for Hinata. Having was easy, building a relationship was hard. Go on, whisper Hinata. That having a candle-lit dinner for 2 was really romantic, said Naruto, and revealed a small table covered with a white tablecloth with 2 place settings. Hinata gave out a happy squeal and clasped both hands together. She always fantasized about a candle-lit dinner with Naruto, and she turned and gave him a kiss on the lips. Several Western ninja, mostly female kind, gushed at such a romantic sight and started to make plans to guilt their boyfriends or husbands into doing something like that. If not, they will find themselves sleeping in the doghouse for a few weeks. After sitting, a servant placed plates and Hinata and Naruto started to eat and made small talk. So how did your day with Raven go? Asked Naruto. Very good. I was afraid the bad business with the Hyuga and Roth, she wouldn't want to be near me, let alone talk over tea, said Hinata. The Roth made me and Kyuubi part of their clan and part of their family and didn't doubt Raven to see past that, said Naruto. She told me about Kyuubi. Certain times of year I will do my best as your advisor, and I would like to meet the other members of my bodyguard, said Hinata. Oh, that a load off my shoulders. Those daimyo are cutthroats when they want to be. It's hard trying to keep them from going at each other's like wild dogs and get them to work together and getting things done that will benefit the empire as a whole, replied Naruto. Kyuubi eared of action for all her help. Hinata smiled as a servant poured some wine. As for the bodyguards, Raven you may already know, and her sister Maria will be your bodyguards. The next one is Tachibana Ginchio. She a very rare female samurai. She will be in overall command of the cartel. As for the others, I haven't heard back from them yet. Tell me about Ginchio, asked Hinata. She very strong-willed, determined, a powerful fighter and a believer. Women can be as strong as men and good with Raiden, really good with Raiden. Naruto chuckled at the memory of meeting her. Is there something you're not telling me? Asked Hinata. Well, the thing is, I fought her once and we sort of fell off a cliff. When I came to, Ginchio was badly wounded and I had to undress her to tend her wounds, muttered Naruto. OMMH, were her bigger than mine? Asked Hinata, causing Naruto to face slammed into the ground. Along with a few servants and ninjas joined Naruto in kissing the earth. Raven had gave Hinata a few tips on how to trip Naruto up when he wasn't expecting. At first she thought it was a bit mean, but Raven said just to keep him on his toes and having a good laugh. Hinata was giggling as Naruto picked himself up. That was mean. The servants and ninjas got up as well and returned to their spots. I know, besides you wouldn't have done anything with Ginchio, did you? Said Hinata in tone that said I will hurt you badly. No, I had to run for my life seeing as Ginchio wasn't too pleased with the undressing, said Naruto waving his hands as he tried to tell the story. After she settled down and I got her sword away from her, I told her I saved her life, and by saving her life, on her Hanyu she vowed to serve under my banner, and being a clan leader the entire Tachibana clan changed sides with them on my side. They helped end the campaign against one of the warlords a few months earlier. Hinata nodded. Kyuubi, whisper Tsunade at the now unmasked demon fox. Her chakra had receded, still everyone held a bated breath as Kyuubi pulled out something black from behind and put it up near her face. The click followed by a flash that caused cries of surprise and fear. The entire room was in chaos following the flash. Everyone were checking to see if they had all their limbs still attached. Some were praying and others were trying to figure out what the hell was Kyuubi out of the seal as they stared at Kyuubi with fear. The guards on the other hand had to keep their laughter. As for the diplomat team, sighed in relief that Kyuubi didn't do anything too troublesome yet, but had the feeling this was only the beginning. Kyuubi on her part was simply smiling at every as the camera she used disappear within the void of her sleeve. The look your face is so priceless, said Kyuubi. Kakashi sighed and rubbed the back of his head as he addresses the two councils. The team would also report that we found Naruto alive and in a very high position with the Western Empire. Like the court jester scene as that fool had unleashed that damned demon and doomed us all, shouted Kaharu, getting a few shouts for ninja to kill Kyuubi. Shut up you old fart, you don't know anything, shouted Sakura. Tsunade looked at Sakura in shock as Kaharu sputtered. Well, he is the most important part of the court, said Kakashi, preparing for the backlash, knowing how the council would jump to their own conclusions before hearing everything. Like knowing when it would rain but forgot to take an umbrella. The council exploded, shouted, saying the shogun has been tricked by Naruto or demanding Kyuubi head, before the Yoki woman flared her chakra, getting them to shut up. Sakura sighed and began to speak. We crossed the border and made good time in reaching the capital, but we were followed by a Western ninja without even knowing. Even Hinata, we believed she was unable to spot her because the ninja masterly overshadows. Hiyashi scoffed at the clam and stated, because she was weak and a traitor. Sakura glared at Hiyashi before continuing, after entering the city we encountered Kyuubi-sama. You already know what happened next. Hinata was taken away to see Naruto. I don't know what happened between them. Kyuubi giggled a little, making the room stare at her. What? The foxwoman asked. It's like they never seen a woman giggled before. Sakura was a little uneasy. Hearing Kyuubi giggle, last time Kyuubi did that she had done things to their team, horrible things. Hinata met with us next morning and told us she was staying and her reasons for it. Not that I blame her, said Sakura as she glared at the Hyuga leader, who was still trying to think of a way to get Hinata and punished her for betraying the Hyuga. Your clan make me sick, Sakura spat. Hiyashi glared at her. I said before, the shogun wasn't pleased with Konoha on how they treated Naruto in the past leading up to his banishment, but he hates Cage of Otto and the traitor a lot more. Naruto hates traitors, but as shogun didn't want to get dragged into another war, be it petty revenge and getting even. Thought many would gladly march even if it meant their death to just kill one of you who wronged him or his other enemies, spoke Kyuubi. That's how grateful the West is. So the shogun sent you to destroy us, shouted a council member. Kyuubi looked at the man. If I wanted to destroy this village, believed me, I would love to wipe out a few buildings, but we wouldn't be here right now wasting time explaining to idiots like you. Every ninja who face me knows how easily I can. She finished, making the council member back down with a whimper. Danzo had stayed silent but was trying to. Why isn't the eye working? He thought the power to remake village is right in front of him and Shisui eye has failed. Why are you here then, Kyuubi? Demanded Tsunade. Kyuubi bodyguards didn't like Tsunade's tone as Kyuubi looked at Tsunade, not even taking offense. I already said why I'm here. I don't believe you. For all I know that Naruto's dead and you just tricking us, said Tsunade. She wasn't going to trust the Kyuubi. Naruto *s alive and well. Tsunade-sama, we made terrible a mistake in brandishing him, said Shino, making Shibi raise an eyebrow. Like his son, he believed Naruto was a threat because of his past treatment, and his most logical course of action would to attack the village, so his brandishing would allow the village time to form a plan in dealing with Kyuubi. Chakra being Naruto's primary weapon, seeing his lack of skills or his short-tempered nature will alienate other ninja from training him, and logic will prevent him from learning any other skills. In the West, things are done very differently. People there have more things to worry about than demons or spirits, and Oni seeing is somewhat a common sight, and there are a few who do prey on villages and are dealt with, but the rest wanted to be left alone. Even a few protect the human villages within their claimed territory as long as a village doesn't do any to provoke them, and it had to be something major. Truthfully, there are demons, Oni, and a few spirits that can rival me in terms of power, said Kyuubi, shocking many ninja. Guess you aren't as all-powerful fox you made yourself out to, said Danzo, getting Kyuubi attention so he can focus his eye on her and bend her will to his. Just more powerful than you, remarked Kyuubi, getting a little annoyed. Danzo cursed once again. It was clear that Shisui I wasn't working. The only edge I have over them is my chakra regeneration, said Kyuubi. Kyuubi, you haven't answered my question, demanded Tsunade. Kyuubi raised an eyebrow. Fine then, but tell me why you announced Naruto as my host and not his parentage. When Kyuubi saw Tsunade not willing to give her an answer, or look her in the eyes, well, it doesn't matter, Kyuubi remarked offhandedly, making Tsunade look at Kyuubi. Well, you see, it wasn't the best time, said Tsunade. He didn't need to know, we couldn't risk it, Kaharu said as Homura nodded his head in agreement. Maybe we can use this to gain a hold over Naruto. If he has some pull with the Shogun, we can make him get the Shogun to enter the war, said Danzo, thinking he could get Kyuubi resealed back into the brat, then mold him into the weapon he was meant to be. I said it doesn't matter because he already knows and has what was owned to him by his parents, spoke Kyuubi. Soon after those words left her lips, all the blood left the Hokage and the elders' faces. You have any idea what you have done? Shouted Tsunade, while Homura and Kaharu saw where this is going and knew it might not end well. I didn't told him he did, said Kyuubi and thumbed to someone behind her. Jiraiya, shouted Tsunade, seeing her old teammate. I always knew you were an idiot, Homura shouted. Yay, tell me something I don't know, grumbled Jiraiya as he came through the doors and wonder what did he do now. Ever since Naruto had been banished, Jiraiya became so withdrawn. Whenever he came to Konoha, in itself was a rarity. He even rarely spied on the hot springs. Hello Jiraiya, said Kyuubi, making the said man looking at Kyuubi, then sigh. Guess Konoha said to team. I knew it was a matter of time with the upcoming war, seeing how bad was it, so what was his reaction? His anger made me flinch, said Kyuubi, making the white-haired man grimaced. Not too violent, I hope, asked Jiraiya. Everyone just stared as Jiraiya was talking to the freaking Kyuubi instead of attacking the demon and giving up his life to seal it. A night in the dungeon and little old me tagging along on their way back. Hi, said Kyuubi as she leered at the diplomat team, who shuddered at being reminded of the week of hell with Kyuubi. Even Jiraiya shuddered. One of the traits the Uzumaki and Kyuubi have in common was their vindictiveness to those that wronged them or wronged the ones they care for. But it led to the freeing of a caged, pale-eyed dove to be with a blue-eyed fox, said Kyuubi. Her smirk turned to a smile. Jiraiya understood what she meant. Really well, good for them, said Jiraiya. This might be a good plot for my next Icha book. He muttered. His mood did a 180 as he takes down the idea on his notebook. Tsunade had put everything together. Her anger peaked. You knew all that time where Naruto was and didn't bring him back, shouted Tsunade. Well, it would have been a bad idea. I don't think the Western Empire would like me that much having hog-tie Naruto and drag him back here, replied Jiraiya. I don't give a damn. Naruto belongs here and to hell with the West and that fat slob of a shogun, shouted Tsunade. Watch your mouth. The Shogun is a great man, shouted one of Kyuubi guards. Tsunade anger had a target. She jumped out of her seat ready to knock the mouthy guard head off his shoulders and to hell with the backlash that was to come, but Kyuubi opened palm catchers her fist. You call yourself a leader, show some restraint. Damn, Naruto wasn't this bad when he was first given the mantle of Shogun, snarled Kyuubi. She stopped the little game she was playing with them. Hell, she gave more than enough clues. The silence was golden before the room evolved into mass panic shouting for the assassination of the Shogun, but Kyuubi gave an loud ahem, reminding them of who was with them in the same room with them. Tsunade's eyes widened after hearing that. That impossible, it can't be Naruto, she said as Kyuubi still holding Tsunade's fist. Damn, 3 broken bones. Though Kyuubi seen the dark blue brushed flesh on the back of her palm, her fast healing ability of her Uzumaki blood infused with her chakra will heal the brushed flesh and mend the bones in a short span of time. Oh, but he is no longer the brash, loud attitude, and acting like an idiot you think he still is. I learned a lot. Erla-sama by the way said to me it was a waste to allow Naruto vast untapped ability, even if only a little had been shown to be wasted because of fear and what he once hold, said Kyuubi and pushes Tsunade back easily. Kakashi sighs then spoke, it truth the Shogun is Naruto and he wasn't happy after pretty much crushing our hopes. He had his guards throw everyone into the dungeon, even Hinata at the but later Hinata was soon taken to see Naruto by his sister Akunoichi, the very same one who followed us the border. Sister? Asked Tsunade. After entering the western lands he was saved from getting killed by bandits that plagued west by local ninja clan known as the Roth clan. When they found out he was the host of Kyuubi and Uzumaki they welcomed him into the Roth clan. The Roth clan, those bunch of ingrates, they thought we had killed one of their members after having been asked to meet in this village. They even had the gall to attack the first Hokage, said Homura. Though they were wiped out years ago, Kaharu stated, they were their fuinjutsu skills that rivaled Uzumaki and their bloodline to create shadows at will. It was hoped they would join Konoha, but as Homura said, one of their members was killed and blamed Konoha. They weren't wrong, said Kyuubi, and they have long memories. They weren't sure on how Azure was killed, so they kept records in case something comes up. Seeing Naruto and myself came from Konoha, I knew how Azure was killed, but they needed more proof. Hinata birdcage seal was that proof, so with that been said now I had to catch a Hyuga, said Kyuubi, seeing as Hiyashi had left no doubt to rally the Hyuga and the village ageist her. Everyone in the room save Jiraiya were confused as Kyuubi turned and left with her guards in tow. Jiraiya looked at Tsunade, who looked ready to break something or someone. Start talking, demanded Tsunade. I found Naruto 2 years ago. He was already Shogun. I wasn't even looking for him. It was luck. Someone mentioned how cute the Shogun's whisker birthmarks are when I was all researching. Tsunade eyebrow ticked. After doing some digging and I sweet-talked my way though to palace, but Naruto must have saw me and allowed me to enter, said Jiraiya. Flashback. Jiraiya was staring at a maid rear end as she dusts the room. She happened to be a wolf. Yoki got that animal in the bed field to them. It must be the tail. Jiraiya knew about the Yoki thanks to his contract with the Toads, and was glad they were thriving here in the west. Sadly, the Yoki tribes in the east were wiped out in the clan wars and the first hidden war, or forced off their lands by the daimyo's growing power and gotten labeled as dirty and cast lesser, killed for being inhuman monsters. A good portion had begun to move west because of this in a time when the western lands were somewhat peaceful and integrate themselves easily because many of them were skilled workers, farmers, craftsmen, bolstering the economy as the east was hit with labor storages. He guessed the warlords saw them as extra bodies for their armies. Even a few Yoki were warlords themselves and were among the most fearsome in their times, or married into a fair number of samurai and ninja clans. Even few became daimyos of their lands. Jiraiya shakes his head free of history. Now his thoughts were on other things that would be rated MA, so he was about to do the Jiraiya moves on the maid, make some cheesy pickup lines, then grab her ass, then getting a slap to the face in return, when the door opened and Ki filled the room, scaring the poor maid, who let out a yelp and jumped a little. What the hell are you doing here, Jiraiya? Snarled Naruto. He didn't believe it that his backstabbing guardian was here. I guess he's still angry at me, thought Jiraiya, and for once wish he called him Ero Sennin. Shogun-sama, said the now trembling maid. She knew he was a very kind man, but she never seen him that angry before and was glad she wasn't the object of his anger. Naruto jested with his head. The maid bowed and quickly left. He has some nerve being here after he turned his back to me when I needed him the most, Naruto thought, and thinking of unleashing his legions of samurai and his hordes of ninja on the self-proclaimed super pervert. Or at least the female ones. After telling them about Jiraiya's hobby, it will be luck if there would be a body to bury after. Not like I didn't accept he be all happy giving out hugs and kisses, thought Jiraiya as Naruto walked towards him, grabbing his coat and slammed him into the wall at the end of the room, making a fair-sized dent in the wall. That wasn't unexpected, thought Jiraiya. He was surprised the amount power Naruto had now. How the hell did you find me, Jiraiya? Said Naruto. And why shouldn't I put a demanding on-site order for every hot spring in the West? My subjects do not like to be spied on by dirty old men. Jiraiya flinched at the tone and that demanding part. Naruto, I won't ask you to forgive me. What I did was unforgivable. I can't even look at your parents in the eyes when I pass. I am sure as hell your mother will kick my ass before your father would have. So you know my parents, stated Naruto, still glaring at him. But still you betray me. I was banished for doing my duty, and for my trouble I got 2 holes in my chest and the backsides of most my so-called friends. Naruto was yelling by this time. I heard that you used Kyuubi chakra a full tail's worth. I couldn't think straight. Your parents died because of Kyuubi. When I did got my thoughts together, it was already too late, so before your banishment date I left a scroll in your apartment, said Jiraiya. Naruto blinked. So you were the one, letting go of the Sannin who fell on his ass, then got back to his feet and tried to work out the kinks from his spine while muttering about his back. Yay, but old man Sarutobi gave me that scroll and that letter a week before he died, and told me to give it to you when turned 16 or you had gotten kicked out of the village, said Jiraiya. That made Naruto blink. The old man had foreseen something like this. Damn it, after hearing that it's now kind of hard to hate you. I still don't like you or even trust you. That's got to be earned back, said Naruto. But if you pull anything that put my subjects in danger I will make Kyuubi's attack on Konoha look tame. That was a threat worth its weight in gold. If it was money, you changed Naruto, but still the same young man who will protect around him, you would have made an excellent Hokage. Jiraiya nodded and went on. As for finding you, well, your exploits are very well known back east as the man who united the war-torn west, and your whisker marks are very rare, seeing as there was another one with those whisker marks still going around as Naruto, eh? Naruto smirked. He was going to see the look on his face when he finds out the name of the owner of the second set of whisker marks in the west. So can you not put demanding on-site order on me, because seeing such fine inspiration for my books around here at an untapped source a rare find and would make my day really, asked Jiraiya. Naruto was about to say something when Raven and Maria entered the room and Jiraiya paled a bit and was trying to find a way out. Well, maybe getting a little sidetracked wasn't a very good idea, Jiraiya thought, cursing at the lack of windows any other exits. Something wrong? You two are all red-faced, asked Naruto. Big brother, there was a breach in the palace. We were taking a bath in the outdoors hot spring when some long white hair old man dressed a kabuki player ninja had been watching us. We only found him after hearing some giggling, said Raven, her cheeks tinted red. We nearly had him too, but running around the palace grounds in wet towels wasn't something we wanted to do, finished Maria, bushing a bit. Jiraiya's nose started to bleed at hearing, running, and, in wet towels, filing the big brother info for later. Naruto was now scowling at him again and was about to lay down the law of this land down when a Y-looking red-haired Yoki woman with fox ears and a tail came in, rubbing her forehead like she was having a headache. Kid, I just got word of a number of complaints about a long-haired man dressed up like a kabuki player crossed with a ninja that can summon toads or some kind of toad man peeking on hot spring baths within the city, all of them the female kind. You want me to hunt him down and use dear old Arrow Sennin as a chew toy? She said before spotting Jiraiya. MMH, hummed the fox woman. Jiraiya blinked at her eyes. Yoki don't have silted pupils, even the cat breeds don't have them, nor had he seen such a bright shade of red eyes before, and she looked very familiar. Lastly, how did she know that damned nickname? Naruto just looked at Jiraiya and smiled before he answered. Raven-chan, Maria-chan, this is Jiraiya the super pervert. Pervert, meet my sisters. Maria and Raven stared at him before it dawned on them. Hi. Wait a sec, sisters, said Jiraiya as he stopped backing away as both sisters blinked at him before they started to put out ki. Damn it, cursed Jiraiya. It's that hentai, said Maria, now very angry, as her twin draws a kunai. So it is, stated Raven as they both moved towards Jiraiya. I got adopted by the Roth clan when I first arrived in the West, and they saved my life not knowing or caring who I am after hearing my life story, replied Naruto, smiling. Oh, said Jiraiya before he resumed backing away. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Kyuubi, said the redhead, and she smiled and counted down. Say what? Shouted Jiraiya in shock. That's when both twins lunged at him. You dirty pervert, how dare you peep on us, shouted Maria as she started to stomp on Jiraiya. Any last words, peeper? Yelled Raven as she punched him and kicked him. Not the between the legs, pleaded Jiraiya, but his pleads went unheard or were just tuned out as his beating got into full swing. All the while Naruto and Kyuubi smiled. Should we stop them? Asked Naruto. Kyuubi thought for a second. No. Snap. Pop. Ah! Screamed Jiraiya. Echo though the palace. Flashback end. Jiraiya shivered at the memory because after Naruto letting the twins have their 3 pounds of flesh, 3 buckets worth of blood, a few bones and his right kidney, Naruto explained the whole Kyuubi being freed and him being not dead and all. Kyuubi body was made of blood drawn from Naruto mixed with Fox Yoki blood, making Kyuubi a Uzumaki blood relation and Naruto child. Thought both were implanted and came out from Kushina but was a elder sister younger brother relationship. Jiraiya sighed. It was confusing sometimes, but to matter at hand. Why didn't you tell me? We could have avoided this, maybe even, said Tsunade, but Jiraiya cut her off. Like what caused more problems for Naruto knowing some of these fools would try to send assassins to kill Naruto? Hell, even tried to seal up Kyuubi, most likely fail at the attempt, said Jiraiya. Hearing that, Kyuubi stopped and turned her head, her eyes narrow at the governing body of Konoha. Because she is a weapon, if she can't then, started Danzo, but key on a level not felt in so many years since the night of Kyuubi made everyone struggled to stand. Kyuubi chakra flared around her, her guards moved away from as her chakra shroud became darker that it started to burning the floor. Let's be clear, I am not a weapon. I am not a pet. I am the 9-tailed Biju known as Kyuubi no Kitsune. My true name is I am Kurama, a name given to me by the Sage of Six Paths himself. Stated Kurama. She had limits when dealing with people who were too set in their ways or too stupid to see a threat. Any attack in whatever form will be dealt with harshly, snarled Kurama. We're done here, muttered Kurama as her chakra receded back into her, and with that said she left with her guards in tow. Why didn't you say anything, said Tsunade looking at Kakashi. Well, because she's the 9-tailed fox that can blow mountains into rubble and she asked us really nicely, said Kakashi rubbing the back of his head, not adding the inhuman amount of ki Kurama used when she asked. Let me guess, said Jiraiya getting everyone's attention. A lot of killing intent, he asked and getting a round of nods from Kakashi group. Jiraiya sighed as he ran his hand though his hair. He wonder if Konoha would handle another round with Kyuubi no Kurama, who now has diplomat statues from one of most powerful empires of the modern ninja age. An explosion from outside the Hokage tower was heard, followed by several others. Jiraiya sighed. It seemed word had gotten out. Tsunade was already out the door with Shizune and Sakura right behind her. Outside the tower was a war zone. Kunai were shattered everywhere along with craters, and wounded Konoha ninja lay on the ground in pain but alive. It looks like a failed ambush, said Jiraiya. The whole village must have felt that latest outburst of chakra, adding Hiashi spreading the word. No doubt all of Konoha will try to fight Kyuubi. He finished when Tsunade punched him in the face. It wasn't her normal one that with one hit you go though the wall punches. It meant she was really mad and wanted to yell at him before beating his head in. Why didn't you tell me you knew Konoha needed Naruto's help? Asked Tsunade, but backed off seeing the look in his eye. You backstabbed Naruto in the back in the worst possible way. He asked me not to tell you. I'm still not fully forgiven, but I'm not going to betray him again, said Jiraiya rubbing his cheek. There are more important things than that. Brat's feelings. The people, started Tsunade, but Jiraiya cut her off. Do you even hear what you're saying? The people are morons or power-hungry fools who undermine you at everything and do things that would lead to major threats that yourself and others have to deal with as the people live their happy little lives. As we ninja, as me, you, everyone who gave up on having a normal life should be the only ones to decide in a ninja village, ranted Jiraiya. Before Tsunade could even speak, an explosion was heard inside the village. In one of the many streets lining Konoha was a scene right out of a war zone. While outnumbered the Western samurai and ninja with Kyuubi, our elites were used to fighting ageist large numbers of enemies. Lady Kyuubi, maybe it would have been better if we return with the army, commented the leader of Kyuubi bodyguards. He duels with the Anbu, who faltered to keep up under the samurai's blows, then got 2 slashes at his shoulders that erupted blood soon after. Well, at the time the shogun didn't want another war, nor would he be pleased to hear I was leading an invasion, said Kyuubi as she breaks a Chunin's arm before mule kicking the ninja into building. Taking a look around before she dashes down the street with her bodyguards in tow. Konoha knows that Kyuubi is back and itching for a rematch. After a few more run-ins with Konoha ninjas, leaving their broken and in-pained bodies in the streets, minutes later Kyuubi's group arrived at the Hyuga compound, and surprise, the gates were barred and 2 teams of Konoha, but the real surprise, they Team 10 and Team 9. Hey, never thought I run into them. Guess my cruise is real, said Kyuubi. One of her guards looked at her. Cruise? It's nothing, just a little joke to myself, said Kyuubi. Neji stepped forward. Demon, you and misguided minions shall not pass, fate has decreed it. Yosh, she cannot stand ageist our springtime of youth, yelled Lee. Get ready for a ass-kicking demon, said Tenten. You shouldn't have returned Naruto, so stop trying to fool us with that henge, said Shikamaru. With Ino and Choji got ready stances, Kyuubi no Kurama on her part was getting a little annoyed. I thought Nara were smart to tell the difference from a kunai to a holster. Taro, I can handle them myself. The leader, a samurai named Taro, nodded. Kurama walked towards her opponents. A grin formed on her face, was daring anyone with the stones to attack. She wasn't disappointed. Neji attacked. You shall fall to my gentle fist, fate has foresaw it. 8 divination signs, destructive mountain fist, shouted Neji. Wave of chakra slams into the red-haired woman, who grunted a little as she was forced back. Neji already closed distant. 8 divination signs, 128 palms of the hand. 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, 8, 16, 32, 64,128 inches, shouted Neji as Kyuubi body jerked with each strike. Neji paid extra attention to the area where the heart is. Kurama slumped ageist Neji hand. Failure will always fail whenever they dare overstep their bounds, that is their fate, stated Neji, and was about to shove Naruto back to the dirt where he belonged. Kurama started to laugh and grabbed Neji's wrist, and looking at Neji, not even hurt. That drip you stout is the most pathetic thing I had ever heard, fate? You know nothing, fate is never set in stone, you only proven you less of a man, you're a dog who heals to its own weakness like a collar. Neji anger peaked and tried to attack, but Kurama flared her ki, making him freeze up. And another thing, fate's fool, said Kurama as a metal fan slipped into the palm of her free hand. Your strength. You fellows' strengths are nothing to me, only one can match me, Kyuubi no Kurama, and that's Naruto. Finished Kurama as she broke Neji's wrist, followed by using the close metal fan as a club started to strike Neji repeatedly, making Hyuga cry out. Let him go, you monster, yelled Tenten as Lee ran at Kurama, who tossed Neji aside a second earlier. Only move her head to avoid a kunai thrown. Dynamic entry, shouted Lee. Kurama avoided the flying jump kick only to weather storm of kunai summoned from Tenten. Iron fan shield, shouted Kurama as a second metal came from her other sleeve. Kurama opened both fans using her chakra, made a shield. When she angled both fans to made a small round shield, chakra began to form a protected barriers. The kunai made sparks when they impact. After the last one fell, Kurama lower her arms. You really got do better than that, thought your best isn't that strong, huh? Kurama then saw the explosive tags tied to the kunai as when they began to burn. You got to be kidding. Boom, the area around Kurama went up in flames. Neji, shouted Tenten as she ran to her fallen teammate. Shikamaru noted that the guards hadn't moved to check to see if Tenten getaway, huh? Said Tenten as she turned to see what Shikamaru wanted, only to feel a hand grab the back of her head, followed by a quick jerk down. A second later, only to feel blinding pain to her face, then black. Hate those exploding notes, they made me itch like crazy, complained Kurama, and scratched the side of her head, then shook Tenten after giving her a brutal knee strike to her face. Out cold, tick, just sad ninjas nowadays. When this village was founded in my day, a ninja could take the pain and still fight back. I can't believe I just said that, muttered Kurama. Unhand Tenten, you unyouthful demon, shouted Lee. Kurama dropped Tenten and reacted to Lee's spin kick using her arm to block. She easily. That kick should have broken that demon arm, thought Lee as Kurama throws off the kick only for Lee to land on the ground upright. Soon as his feet touched the ground, Lee winced and had to remove one of his leg weights to find one bend and leaving a black burst on his lower leg. Partial multi-size jutsu. A large fist headed straight for Kurama, who did a replacement with Lee, who only had a moment to understand what had happened when Choji enlarged fist hit him. Choji was shocked seeing Lee get launched into a building. Ino sweated a little while watched Kurama fan herself a little with that smile and went to move only to find herself unable to move. Shadow imitation jutsu success, said Shikamaru smirk. Way to go Shikamaru, said Ino as Choji used his partial multi-size jutsu to restrain Kyuubi. So what do we do with Naruto, asked Choji. Yes, that's a good question Fatso has raised, said Kurama, making Choji mad, but Ino put a hand on his shoulder. That baka Naruto is just trying to bait you. Ho, that wasn't a bait, you skinny big-mouthed tart. I'm betting that you turned tricks in the back alleys. In itself is a wonder, seeing as you stuff your bra and have little appeal, said Kurama, and was pleased to see Ino's face turn red with anger. You bitch or bastard or whatever you are, you going get a mindfuck up, screamed Ino. Sorry, I don't sleep with flat-crested tarts, retorted Kurama, making Ino madder. Ino, scrabble the demon's mind before it's break loose, orders Shikamaru. With gusto, mind disturbance, said Ino with a wicked grin as she used her hands forming the A-frame seal and aiming at Kurama. Ew, I don't want those tart waves aim at me, eew, said Kurama in a high-pitched voice before going up in smoke. The Ino Shika-cho were stunned and wonder what had just happened. That was a shadow clone, said Ino, as Shikamaru and Choji looked around trying to sense where Kyuubi had hidden itself, only to freeze as ki was blasted at them from behind them. Then stop, letting Ino, Shikamaru and Choji move to face Kyuubi. She could smell the fear coming off them. I'll ask again, can any of you tell the difference from a kunai to a holster? Well, come on. What's the point of telling us that dumb question, Naruto? Snapped Ino and found it hard to breathe as Kurama's hand were around her throat. That question has to do with everything right now, said Kurama, looking amused as Ino tired to pry herself loose. Choji was kept at bay by the sharp claws near his throat. I wouldn't try, your whole village couldn't handle me before, and this time around there no fourth Hokage to stop me. What is even more pathetic, that you think I'm Naruto, a dumb loud-mouth wearing kill me orange, wanting to be Hokage. People change, Naruto change, and I have changed. You are the one who remained the same pathetic selves who take things like family and friends for granted, spoke Kurama as her bodyguards had surrounded them. You understand now, whispered Kurama. Shikamaru sweated and tried to think of a plan. What hell were they thinking, trying to take on Kyuubi when the entire village couldn't do it? As a ninja placed a hand on his shoulder. I'm going to really enjoy this, said Kyuubi and started to laugh, a very evil laugh. How about I change your opinion, cooed Kyuubi as Ino whimper. When Tsunade and Jiraiya finally arrived at Hyuga compound, having been delayed from getting parts of the village under control, the sounds of fighting is heard past the destroyed main gate. Well, it's not on fire, that's something to be relieved about, said Jiraiya. Tsunade grunted as they both head towards the ruined gate as Tenten starts to come to, only to find herself being restrained by the Anbu that was with the Sannin. Hey, what are you doing? Shouted Tenten. Both Sannin stop in front of a crying Ino who was curled, repeated, I'm sorry, over and over again. Choji was knocked out and was pinned by kunai to a wall by his armor, and Shikamaru lay face down in the middle of an array that kept him pinned, but other than that looked fine. It was later Shikamaru told everyone that Kyuubi thought the ground would give him perspective after staring at the clouds all day. What are you sorry about? Asked Tsunade. Ino looked up with a glassy look in her eyes. You're not going whisper at me too? I don't want to hear any more bad things I didn't do. Tsunade went to place a hand on Ino's shoulder, which she shied away from at first but then leaned, enjoying the contact. It's a genjutsu, started Jiraiya, and he placed his open palm on Ino's hurt and made the release sign. Ino's eyes became normal again. Oh my head, she moaned, then blinked and looked Tsunade and Jiraiya. We made the biggest mistake ever, Lady Tsunade, said Ino. I say, what the hell you all were thinking trying to fight Kyuubi, said Tsunade. Not that, for turning our backs on Naruto, said Ino. Fresh tears came forth. Kyuubi showed me Naruto life. I never thought he was so alone, and he still found the will to keep going. We're the real monsters. Mirror of memory, dreams and nightmares. It's a genjutsu from the west. It has a lot uses, some good and few really nasty uses. I heard it can even put people into comas, even make them kill themselves. Ino shivered as she was taken away. Tsunade stared at Jiraiya. You knew about this level of jutsu and didn't even report about it or tried to get a copy of that jutsu to counter it, Tsunade accused. Or use it ageist the other villages, the Western Empire, knowing Danzo and those two old farts, countered Jiraiya. Well, seeing that brat sent the Kyuubi to sort out some alleged wrongs done ageist the Roth clan who fought it out with my father, stated Tsunade. And if those alleged wrongs aren't false, asked Jiraiya. I don't care, it's been nearly century, it won't hold any weight, said Tsunade. That why Kurama here to get things done. I met with Erla, she not one to let things go unpunished no matter how long it's been. Besides, the Hyuga need to eat some humble pie, said Jiraiya. Sounds like revenge, remarked Tsunade. Just correcting a past wrong, and you did take note that Kurama hadn't killed anyone, said Jiraiya. Tsunade thought about that and a shiver ran down her spine as one thought ran through her mind. Jiraiya nodded when Tsunade looked at him. She been toying with us, he replied. They call her the Red Princess for the sheer level of bloodshed when she is set loose on an enemy, be a demon or a human, and really what's scary that Naruto and a few others could stand up to Kurama even when Hanabi lay on her back staring up into the sky thinking back on past events. Hanabi always hated her elder sister knowing she had known their mother longer while she was only held for a few moments. That hate grown as Hanabi aged, seeing how everyone besides Hinata acted like a Hyuga only enforced this hate. Hanabi was the prefect Hyuga in every way and next leader of the Hyuga. She easily defeated her ex-older sister and showed Hinata her fate by using the birdcage, with her father nodding in approval as always, knowing she was prefect. Even when Hinata still held on to the weak feeling for a demon as a way to fight her fate, as if feelings can defy fate, it only proves that Hinata was a failed Hyubi. When father had arranged a marriage for Hinata to a son of well-connected lord, the clan would rise to new highs, and seeing the elders look at Hinata with lust, that thought made Hanabi smile. Hinata would at last know her fate, maybe her children would be prefect, but Hanabi had doubts. Due to a last-minute mission, Hinata's skills were needed, so Hanabi made it a point to remind Hinata that her fate only been delayed. After 2 weeks everything went to hell. Hinata team had returned ahead of time. Regardless if Hinata had to make a report, she was to return to the compound after the mission and get ready to be sent off. First Hinata hadn't returned, next father had returned to the compound saying the Kyuubi had returned in human form and was head straight for them. At first no one believed him, but hearing the sounds of battle added weight to his decoration. And with a few monuments the main gate were kicked open. That right, the main gate made from very rare iron wood infused with charca to make the door harder than steel had been kicked open and splintered like cheap firewood. As the dust settled, a lone red-haired woman walked onto the compound like she owned the place. Hanabi reacted and tried to attack, only to have her outreached arm grabbed by the woman and flung aside. Hanabi groaned, trying to get the cobwebs, and looked at the growing pile of main and branch Hyuga that lay at her feet as they tried to attack, taken down by a mix of hand-to-hand, hitting below the belt and redirecting one's attack into another, making a mockery of the Hyuga famed gentle fist. Seeing her clan being lay low, Hanabi felt red-hot anger. How dare you, commoner, attack the noble Hyuga clan? Commoner? That's a first time been called all sorts of names but never commoner, said Kurama. And your clan is hardly noble. I'm here to get what is owned, said Kurama, as she advanced towards Hanabi.